It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 701. This is a big step for Taladan civilization. In the cold and empty universe, signal lights and lighting devices outlined the outline of a huge fleet point. A small fleet slowly groped its way towards it in the darkness as the distance between the two continued to narrow. A huge monster broke free from the darkness and revealed its complete appearance in front of the small fleet point. The next moment, this huge beast opened its magnificent abyss mouth. The Titan mothership opened the giant port door in its belly point. An old starship full of traces of artillery fire slowly sailed away from the small fleet and under Zero's control, slowly and steadily sailed into the bright and beautiful Titan mothership. At this moment, a bright and brilliant fire lit up 100 million kilometers away, like a ball of fireworks, celebrating the occurrence of this historic event. The firelight clearly entered the interior of this old starship through the porthole point, but its forward movement did not stop at all. In the blink of an eye, this old starship sank into the belly of the Titan mothership. Then, the remaining starships in the small fleet, like frightened shrimps, scattered and swam towards their respective targets. When all the starships were successfully loaded into the cabin of the expedition fleet, and the Kepler 452 star system 9 light years away suddenly burst into long-lasting applause. Bayexan slowly stood up from his seat with a faint smile on his face. Everyone, let's go. He looked around at everyone with a faint expectation and excitement in his eyes. We should go to welcome the new members of the Pan-Human Federation. Alden stood nervously by the porthole of the starship, looking at the huge starship and port outside the porthole with a complicated expression. Titan mothership. It's so spectacular, it exclaimed from the bottom of its heart, and a little self-abasement rose in its eyes. Compared with the starships of human civilization, the starships of the Taladan civilization are like small sampans from primitive tribes. Suddenly, a brilliant firelight came from a very far distance, reflected in its round visual organ, and attracted its attention. What happened? There was a bit of uneasiness and anxiety in Alden's eyes. He knew that there were 11 fleets belonging to the Eugene civilization in that direction point. Before he could think carefully, the firelight disappeared, replaced by endless darkness. The starship entered the port of the Titan mothership. Alden took a deep breath, suppressed the complex emotions in his heart, and thought about the next meeting process in his mind again. In order to prevent accidents, the entire meeting process has been continuously deduced in his mind for 2 days. A giant azure holographic image suddenly appeared in the channel, completely dispelling the darkness in the channel and marking the direction of the starship with the simplest symbols. This magical scene caused bursts of exclamations from the Taladan flagship. Aerial projection imaging technology. Milo, who was squeezed on the porthole glass with the help of a stabilizing device, explained softly, "We have studied this technology before. It consumes a lot of energy and the imaging conditions are relatively harsh. These are secondary. The most important thing is that each projection device consumes a lot of real-time computing power and requires manual real-time maintenance." In desperation, the Academy of Sciences was forced to give up this seemingly high-end display technology. Milo's eyes flashed with amazing light. How did they achieve such a large-scale aerial projection imaging? It blinked its big eyes that were slightly deformed by the squeeze and said with longing, "If I can see the detailed drawings and principles." Milo's words immediately aroused the approval of a group of scientists around him. Alden saw this and could only smile bitterly and shook his head. This is just a little bit, and the scientists of the Taladan civilization have already shown signs of rebellion. This group of black and white balls are like Granny Liu who just entered the Grand View Garden. Any detail outside the porthole can cause them to exclaim and sigh. Amidst the exclamations, the Taladan flagship passed through the initial guide channel and truly entered the interior of the Titan mothership. Attention, the front is about to enter the artificial gravity area. Current gravity in the ship 9.8 m/s. A line of smooth Taladan text appeared on the large screen of the command center. What, Milo? was still sticking to the porthole, blinking his big eyes. What the hell? As soon as the voice fell, a huge force came from under his body, pulling his body away from the porthole fiercely. Bang, bang, bang. The dull sounds that came one after another sounded in the Taladan flagship point along with these strange sounds. Alden, who was originally standing on the deck, also felt his body sink and sat on the cold deck. Milo lay on the deck of the starship with a confused look on his face and blinked his big eyes again. The coolness of the deck passed through the fine hair on his body and reached his skin. It shuddered subconsciously, and its brain gradually reacted. Milo suddenly widened his eyes and strong excitement burst out from his eyes. Chief. It struggled to get up from the deck and reached out to help Alden beside him up. This is real artificial gravity. As he spoke, Milo raised his short arms and waved them twice. The familiar feeling instantly awakened its memory and made its excitement climb to another level. This is not the equivalent gravity provided by rotation. This is real gravity. Zanka. Above. How did they do it? Since the flagship entered the Titan mothership. This sentence has become the mantra of Milo and a group of Taladan scientists. A slight vibration came from the deck under his feet. The starship has landed successfully. Current external environment temperature 25 air pressure, atmospheric composition. Looking at the data displayed on the screen one by one, Milo felt a little surprised. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps it was inevitable. The environment in which human civilization lives seems to be not much different from their home planet. In addition to the large differences in gravity and air pressure, the deviation value of the atmospheric composition did not exceed the physical adaptation range of the Taladan people. In other words, as long as the Taladans have adapted to certain conditions, they can survive directly in human starships. Not only Milo, but everyone in the command center has discovered this magical phenomenon. For a while, slight discussions came from all corners. Considering the differences in the microbial populations carried by individuals of both civilizations, please wear life support equipment as soon as possible. 10 minutes later, the hatch will open automatically. The smooth Taladan text continued to appear on the screen. Milo once again felt the power of the 5th level civilization. In the past, all of this required manual operation by the Taladan crew. Milo, wearing a sealed life support suit, carefully followed Alden in front of him and walked towards the slowly opening hatch. This was the first offline contact between the two civilizations under the gaze of all the Taladans. Alden, who was also wearing a life support suit, took a firm step and stepped on the deck of the human civilization. This was a small step for Alden, but a big step for the Taladan civilization. Chapter 702. I suddenly felt a little regretful when Alden stepped on the extremely solid deck. Extremely complex emotions burst out of his heart. It can't explain the feeling. Happy, panic, confused, still excited. Hot blood instantly poured into its brain, giving it a strong sense of dizziness at this time. Alden only felt that his mind was blank, and his body subconsciously followed the direction guide on the holographic projection into the temporary disinfection facility. The robotic arms automatically extend one after another to completely eliminate the microorganisms carried on the life support suit at an extremely fast speed. In order to ensure the safety of the civilizations of both parties and avoid unnecessary trivial matters, this is a necessary process for a civilized meeting between the two parties. For convenience, the meeting place was set up directly in the hangar of the Titan mothership. Alden followed the holographic guidance and walked out of the disinfection facility with a confused look on his face. Just one glance and it froze in place. The lush woods, as well as various convenient facilities hidden in the woods. Everything made Alden feel extremely familiar. This is Docalor Central Park. The confusion in Alden's heart dissipated instantly, and he quickly moved his short legs and walked forward. Soon, it came to a leafy tree. It carefully raised its hand and gently stroked the tree with various arc patterns growing on its surface. Aha! The claws passed through the trunk of the tree with ease. Its movement caused the entire tree to tremble slightly. The shaking quickly disappeared, and the scene in front of him returned to its Original tranquility point for Keeldon had some realization in his heart. All of this is made by the aerial projection imaging technology mentioned by Milo. The source of the data is naturally the central computer of the Taladan fleet. Alden gently retracted his arm. His eyes filled with sadness. There is none left. The Kalia Central Park no longer exists. Even the rich home planet of Taladan civilization may no longer exist. Chief Milo, who was following Alden, reminded in a low voice, "Someone is coming. How's it going? How's the restoration?" A familiar voice came from a distance, through the radio device on the life support suit, and reached the ears of Alden and the other Taladans. "Do you like this meeting environment?" When he saw the person coming, Alden's heart beat violently several times, and his originally calm mood became restless again. That's the commander of the human fleet. His name is quite strange. What does it seem to be? Bayekson. A series of basic information about what he had done over the past 2 days flashed through Alden's mind. A problem arises. There is no translation device or display device installed in the life support suit. Alden's eyes were filled with confusion. It couldn't understand the words in Bayekson's mouth at all. Just when it was at a loss, a blue holographic image appeared beside it, and lines of round Taladan text quickly appeared in front of its eyes. Alden breathed a sigh of relief. Level 5 civilization is really amazing. It sighed from the heart. "Bay, Commander. Bay." Alden quickly came forward and followed the customs of human civilization, extending his right hand. "Right, Porter Bayekson. The picture is very realistic. I thought it was real at first." Bayekson smiled and stretched out his hand, shaking Alden's hand through the life support suit. "Welcome to the Galactic Meta-Human Federation. The human fleet has entered a state of warp navigation and is expected to arrive at its destination in 4 months. I would like to ask, the target star system is probably..." Alden's eyes moved slightly, and he asked in a low voice, "Don't you know?" Bayekson said with some surprise, "There was a little misunderstanding with your detector at that time." Alden's heart skipped a beat. "A small misunderstanding? Are you sure?" 9.9 light years away. An exclamation came from behind Alden. "It only takes 4 months to arrive. Zanka is on top. This is..." Alden quickly explained to Bayekson, "I know, Milo, you are a civilized scientist." Bayekson looked at Milo with a smile and said in a seductive voice, "Of course, our fleet uses curvature navigation technology and can currently reach up to 30 times the speed of light. Want to know how it works?" Hearing this, a light suddenly appeared in Milo's eyes, and he swallowed hard. "Really? Is it really okay, Milo?" Alden shouted in a low voice, "Pay attention to the occasion." "Of course." Bayekson was not angry, and even said with a smile, "According to the rules set by the Academy of Sciences, you can completely exchange for this technology through contribution points and credits in the future, under the temptation of technology." Alden's reminder was forgotten by Milo. It subconsciously asked, "What should we do to obtain enough contribution points and credits?" Bayekson shrugged, "You need to go to the Kepler 452 star system to know. The specific content will be introduced to you in detail by Academician Yongchang, the chief scientist of human civilization." Milo withdrew his expectant gaze with regret. Alden glared at Milo beside him and changed the subject abruptly. "Commander Bay, the flagship of human civilization is really spectacular. When I first saw it..." "Flagship?" Bayekson interrupted Alden. "I need to correct one thing. Titan Mothership is only a secondary flagship of human civilization. At the same time, the current fleet is equivalent to a small team in terms of quantity and scale." Alden's voice suddenly paused, and the unfinished words were choked in his throat. Yes. Alden changed the subject again abruptly. "The fire outside just now. Oh, that's the Eugene fleet." Bayekson smiled and waved his hand, saying nonchalantly, "They tried to threaten us and threatened to attack you. We had no choice but to destroy the Eugene fleet." The expression on Alden's face seemed to be frozen. As if he had noticed Alden's strange expression, Bayekson hurriedly added, "Don't worry, we launched a saturation attack with curvature missiles. There will be no survivors on the battlefield." The possibility of information transmission has been basically eliminated, so you don't have to worry about the revenge of Eugene civilization. What's more, the human fleet will not allow such a thing to happen. Bay Yixin said confidently. Alden, it worried about this problem. It looked at the perfectly reproduced Docalil Central Park in front of it with tears in its eyes, and suddenly regretted it. Taladan civilization. What kind of civilization did it join? Chapter 703, The Impact of Cultural Integration. 4 months later, Earth calendar year 3622. Beyond the star system, Kepler 452. Accompanied by a moderate fluctuation in space and time, a large-scale fleet suddenly appeared in the dead silence of the universe. The next moment, some fine meteorites located in front of the fleet instantly turned into powder and became a speck of dust in the vast universe. At the same time, a touch-ion message was transmitted rapidly toward the star system ahead. 4 months of life in the fleet gave the Taladans a general understanding of the living habits of human civilization. Human culture, with an unstoppable momentum, has integrated into Taladan civilization from every corner and crevice. Especially after understanding the history of human civilization, Taladan civilization is filled with strong respect for human civilization. To them, the entire history of human civilization is an extremely tragic and magnificent epic. If the development history of human civilization is compared to a glass of strong wine, then Taladan civilization, which has lasted for tens of thousands of years, is like a glass of cold drink without any fluctuations. They can hardly imagine how human civilization developed from a weak first level civilization to the powerful fifth level civilization in just 1600 years. It is even more difficult for them to imagine the various crises that human civilization has encountered in the past 1600 years in the eyes of these black and white groups, not to mention the several wars between civilizations with disparity in strength. The solar crisis at the beginning alone was enough to wipe out this civilization in its cradle. It is precisely because of this that, unknowingly, signs of another faith appeared within the Taladan civilization. The object of faith is naturally human civilization. As a core figure throughout 1600 years of history, Yongchang, although we have not yet met, his image is deeply engraved in the minds of Taladan people. Over time, the seeds of faith will surely sprout in Taladan civilization. Corresponding to it. The culture of Taladan civilization also invaded human civilization in reverse. Not only the expedition fleet, but also within the Kepler 452 star system, there is a trend of using arcs as beauty. For a time, various works of art outlined with mysterious arcs emerged one after another. These works of art have once again brought a positive promotion effect to Taladan civilization. The cultures of both sides continue to blend and merge, and the effects produced far exceed the scope of 1 + 1 = 2. Cultural integration has brought not only artistic progress to human civilization, but also scientific research progress. Perhaps because of more open-minded mind, in the past 4 months, the Academy of Sciences has released new research results 50% faster than in the past. Curvature nano intrusion device, new antimatter naval gun, new space agricultural breeding system. In terms of theoretical research, the results are also impressive. Interstellar trade system, interstellar cultural system, interstellar economic system. The addition of Taladan civilization is like a pool of living water, once again accelerating the development of human civilization. The edge of the Kepler 452 star system. A fleet that had been waiting for a long time started the antimatter engine the moment it received the touch-ion message. Under Zero's control, they slowly sailed out of the star system and greeted the triumphant returning expedition fleet. Zanka is on top. Alden, who was wearing a life support suit, leaned forward, holding his short paws on the porthole of the Titan mothership. His round face pressed tightly against the mask of the life support suit, and his lips hidden under the down quivered slightly. He let out a low sigh. Is this the star system of a level 5 civilization? It's so awesome. Holy shit. A familiar sigh came from the side. That's awesome. There are actually 2 Titan motherships in this welcoming fleet, and like Alden, Milo, who is flexible in thinking, has already mastered part of the vocabulary of human civilization. Point of course, under the influence of his ears and eyes, Milo was most familiar with those simple and effective syllables. Listening to the soul-stirring and well-spoken sigh, Alden suddenly looked at Milo standing next to him with black lines on his head. Point at this time, Milo's entire body, the entire panda, had climbed onto the edge of the porthole, staring with wide-eyed eyes as he curiously observed the oncoming welcoming fleet. Watch your image, Alden scolded in a low voice. Point as it spoke, it turned and glanced at the human crew members not far away, fearing that they would have a bad impression of the Taladan civilization. Point apparently, it was overly concerned. Point these crew members looked at Milo with smiles on their faces, as if they were happy to see such a scene. Point Alden sighed helplessly. Point it does know the reason for this. I never expected. Alden shook his head and murmured in a low voice, Taladan civilization, as a third-level civilization, would actually be reduced to the point where it relies on looks to make a living. Isn't this bad? Milo looked at those starships full of technology curiously. Food and shelter are included. You can also exchange contribution points and credit points for various supplies. Having said that, our cultural materials have earned us a lot of contribution points and credits. Thank you, Anchor, for giving us the appearance. Alden's breath suffocated slightly, and he glanced at Milo angrily. Can this be a good thing? If this continues, the development potential of Taladan civilization will be completely lost. I have a question, Milo asked back. Chief, are you sure that the Taladan civilization still has potential for development? Our scientific research progress is getting slower and slower. If there is no human civilization, the Taladan civilization will sooner or later perish in this universe. This time there is the Eugene civilization, and next time there may be a Janaya civilization. Who knows? Alden's face suddenly became ugly. Point the words were a bit harsh, but he knew that Milo did not say anything wrong. Point Milo did not look back, still looking at the picture outside the porthole. Calm down, Chief. Human civilization wants a subordinate civilization, not a pet civilization. Now that we have just joined, it is normal to have some preferential treatment. It won't be long before the Taladan civilization will return to normal. Don't believe it? Milo glanced at Alden and shrugged his fur humanely. If you don't believe it, just wait and see. Alden glanced at Milo suspiciously. Point he remained skeptical about this. Oh, right. Milo suddenly spoke again. I want to exchange the contribution points and credit points earned from cultural materials for some necessary scientific and technological resources for the Taladan civilization. Alden pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement with Milo's request. Point it would be a waste if we didn't use it. Point once interstellar trade is opened, these credit points will only be valuable if they are circulated. Chapter 704 Interest-free credit point loan. Want to know more? The expedition fleet slowly sailed into the Kepler 452 star system and headed straight for Kepler 452b. Point the official meeting place between the Taladan civilization and the human civilization was set on the Earth near Kepler 452b. Point as the Titan mothership gradually approached Kepler 452b. The outline of the Earth gradually became clear without any surprise. The scale of the flagship of the human civilization once again attracted a burst of exclamations from the black and white bulls. 1 hour later, Earth Point in the carefully decorated reception hall, LV Yongchang had a smile in his eyes and looked at the black and white bull in front of him in a life support suit with a gentle face. Alden welcomed the Taladan civilization to join the Galactic Pan-Human Federation, although he knew that Alden had heard this sentence many times. LV Yongchang still had to repeat it again. Point as the chief scientist of human civilization, the words he said were obviously more convincing than others. Alden's expression was slightly moved, and the fur on his body became a little fluffy. Point he hesitated again and again, and asked hesitantly, Respected Chief Lu, I have always had a doubt in my heart. I don't know. You can ask. Lu Yongchang smiled and gestured. The members of the Pan-Human Federation of the galaxy you mentioned are. Alden carefully looked at Lu Yongchang's face and asked in a low voice. Point the expression on Lu Yongchang's face suddenly became stiff. Ahem. He coughed lightly, trying to ease the embarrassment in his heart. As of now, you should be the third member of the Pan-Human Federation, including human civilization. Yongchang added again. Alden's eyes twitched slightly twice. It turns out that this federation has only 3 civilizations. Fortunately, at least this federation is not just human and Taladan civilizations. Alden could only comfort himself in his heart. It continued to ask along with Yongchang's words, "Can I learn about the situation of another civilization, please? Rest assured, I have no other intentions. I just want to know the general information of my allies." Hearing this, Yongchang sighed in his heart. It's over. This day was a dead chat. End of chat. JPGM. Yongchang coughed hard again. It's like this. At present, the second member civilization of the Pan-Human Federation is still dormant in the biological laboratory of Earth. The main reason is, boom, Alden only felt a thunder in his mind, and he didn't hear the words that followed. What the hell? Members of the Pan-Human Federation were dragged into the biological laboratory? A series of difficult to pass images suddenly appeared in Alden's mind. Swish. Alden's round body seemed extremely agile at this moment. It jumped up from the chair and looked at Yongchang in front of him with a defensive look. Yongchang opened his mouth, and there was a bit of helplessness in his eyes. Okay, it seems that he was misunderstood. It is not clear with words alone, so it seems that he can only show the pictures in the laboratory. Although this is a bit against the rules, a third level civilization, let alone looking at images, even if various experimental devices are placed in front of it, it is estimated that it will not be able to do anything. The most important point is that as the maker of the rules, it is normal to break the rules occasionally, right? While thinking, Yongchang raised his hand and swept it in the air. This scene further aggravated Alden's misunderstanding. A touch of despair flashed in its round eyes. Sure enough, it knew that there was no such good thing in the world. Is the Taladan civilization finally going to die during its term? In less than a second, it was even ready to apologize to Zanka after its death. That Yongchang's gentle voice came from the side. You can take a look at your ally. The black and white ball with its eyes closed trembled violently. Still wanted to take a look. This human civilization is so brutal. Sure enough, what they showed in the past 4 months was just a false appearance to paralyze the Taladan people. Chief, what a big tree. Milo's somewhat excited voice came from the side. Tree? What tree? Shouldn't it be a bloody dissection picture? Alden suddenly felt a little confused. Yes, this is an individual of the Nus civilization. Unlike us, it is a plant civilization. The conversation between Yongchang and Milo came from the side again. Alden was even more confused. It opened its eyes carefully and took a quick glance. Damn, what a big tree. Alden made the same exclamation as Milo in his heart. As a pacifist, the Taladan civilization has an innate liking for these trees, flowers, and plants, due to the limitations of the living habits of the Nus civilization. We have not yet found an environment suitable for their survival. Yongchang shook his head helplessly, but the fleet has sent out a large number of interstellar probes. If we are lucky, we will soon find a star system suitable for them to live in. As he said this, Yongchang turned his head to look at Alden, who was still standing there blankly. Sir Alden, are you relieved now? Alden took small steps with an awkward look on his face and moved his chubby body back to his seat. Respected Chief Lu, I can understand. Yongchang still had a faint and gentle smile on his face. I have seen the living environment of your civilization, and it is very similar to human civilization. It just so happens that an interstellar probe discovered a potentially habitable planet 11.3 light years away some time ago. We can help you transform it and make it a place for the Taladan civilization to live. This is easy for human civilization to do. Before Alden was happy, Yongchang's voice sounded again. But if you want to get something, you must pay the same price. This is the first purpose of the Pan-Human Federation. Alden's heart sank, and the smile in his eyes instantly dissipated. Considering that you don't have enough credit points to pay for this transformation work, after discussion, we decided to provide Taladan civilization with a 500-year interest-free credit loan service. Of course, you can choose to transform the planetary environment yourself. LV Yongchang shrugged, but I suggest you still use this service. Next, human civilization will speed up the absorption of subordinate civilizations. The resources in this starfield are limited, and the credit points and contribution points that can be exchanged are also limited. So, it is the right way to spend as much time as possible on valuable things. PS. Thanks to KUN* for his great certification. Chapter 705. Capitalists wept when they saw it. We, Alden, hesitated for a moment and then made a decision. We use this service. Hearing this, Yongchang suddenly showed a bright smile on his face, pointy straightened up slightly, and extended his right hand to Alden. Your Excellency Alden, happy to cooperate. Interstellar trade routes will be open soon. In order to celebrate Taladan civilization joining the Pan-Human Federation, there will be no need to pay any fees for interstellar flights between the two for the next 100 years. As the leader of a third-level civilization, Alden naturally knows very well what development opportunities this policy will bring to the Taladan civilization. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you for your generosity. The black and white dumpling hurriedly stretched out his right paw and held it with Yongchang's right hand. Right, Yongchang seemed to have remembered something, stretched out his hand, and crossed it in the air, opening a new holographic projection again. This is the resource that Taladan civilization can currently exchange for using credit points. The credit point interest-free loan limit is abundant. You can choose carefully. Alden and Milo looked at each other, and both of them saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Taladan Genome Enhancement Project, Star Eater Rental Business, Antimatter. Finished product, ship-based laser cannon, ship-borne electromagnetic gun, primary antimatter manufacturing plan. The exchange list will be gradually opened, based on the level of contribution. Yongchang's gentle voice came again. The various cultural resources of Taladan civilization have brought considerable progress to human civilization, and this is also the source of your current contribution. Next, obtaining the contribution value is not that simple. As long as the contribution value is high enough, you can even exchange it for the finished Titan mothership. Alden and Milo stared at the list in the holographic image with wide eyes, then they both swallowed at the same time. I really want to pack them all up and take them away. More than an hour later, Alden and Milo walked through the disinfecting device in a daze with light steps and returned to their flagship point. The two looked at each other again, and then both smiled bitterly. The newly obtained credits have been squandered, and at the same time, the Taladan civilization still owes a huge debt. It's time to work, Alden said sadly. Milo nodded with a sad look on his face. I heard that there are a lot of mineral resources in the star system assigned to us. When the time comes, I will rent a gatator to complete the mining project as soon as possible. It's not enough, Alden interrupted Milo weakly. I made a rough estimate. We need to develop at least 10 valuable star systems to pay off this debt. Bang. Milo took off his life support suit, and his round body fell directly onto the deck, making a dull sound. 10 valuable star systems. After completing this task, the exchange list should be updated again. Right, Alden. The two Pandaren looked at each other again and sighed in unison. Why? After watching the Taladans leave, the corners of Yongchang's lips that had been suppressed for a long time quickly began to rise. Yongchang, you are this. Fang Zhu next to him gave Yongchang a thumbs up with admiration. The capitalists will cry when they see you. What's wrong with me? Yongchang's smile grew stronger. There are so many outdated weapons and equipment piled up in the warehouse. What a pity it would be to throw them away. Hearing this, the look on Fang Zhu's face became even weirder. Are you sure those panda people are able to repay this debt? What are you afraid of, Yongchang shrugged. Didn't you see that Milo's eyes were straight? Don't underestimate the appeal of these technologies to scientists. Fang Zhu. Awesome. Okay. Yongchang waved his hand. Tell that Lin Shuguang he will be the foreign minister of human civilization from now on, and leave the next affairs of Taladan civilization to him. As for you, Yongchang gently touched his chin and looked Fang Zhu up and down. Speed Up to find low-level civilization. Zeros. Computing power is limited after all. If we want to ensure the rapid development of human civilization, we must develop a sufficient number of subsidiary civilizations as soon as possible. Fang Zhu nodded silently. Point without warning. One more task would be on his shoulders. Capitalists will cry when they see it. At this moment, Fang Zhu suddenly felt similar emotions to the Taladan civilization that had left not long ago. After returning to the office, Lu Yongchang sat on the chair and breathed a sigh of relief. Ah, you done, so. Yu Tong's voice came from the side. How are the pandas? Are they cute? Lu Yongchang thought carefully. Then he replied sincerely, I don't know if he's cute or not, but I have to say, he's really quite silly. A good target for exploitation. So, Yu Tong, calm down. As if he noticed some changes in the atmosphere, Lu Yongchang quickly smiled and relaxed the atmosphere. When the interstellar trade routes are opened, and the transformation of Kepler 452b is completed, interstellar tourism will also be a key project, and these pandas have purchased the genetic optimization project. Maybe you will see them on the street then. So, Yu Tong was very satisfied with the big pie that LV Yongchang had drawn. Okay, Mr. LV, you are busy. She snorted and said, I still have an experiment that has not been completed. The sound of the door closing echoed in the office. LV Yongchang leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath to calm his inner emotions. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. The next second, his consciousness came to the mottled space again. High energy neutron storm, matter fission cannon, planetary shield device, planetary curvature engine, primary planetary fortress. Looking at the cursors of varying brightness in the technology tree, LV Yongchang's expression became solemn again. PS. There is only one chapter today, a little stuck. Let's sort out the subsequent plot. Chapter 706, Reserved Projects of the Weapons Rue 0026D Department. After leaving the technology tree space, Lu Yongchang raised his hand in a familiar manner and passed through the holographic projection above his desk. Drop. A piece of top priority information suddenly popped up in front of his eyes, attracting all his attention. After checking it, Lu Yongchang took a deep breath and called up a list. After careful consideration, he gently tapped his finger on a person's name. 0. Let Wilson come to my place. Copy that. The electronic synthesized voice responded quickly. Lu Yongchang frowned slightly and tapped the knuckles of his left hand lightly on the desk in front of him, making crisp sounds. The right hand is writing something on the holographic projection on the desk. Earth weapons are /U0026D comprehensive laboratory. The main goal of this antimatter central naval gun is to extend the attack range again, based on the previous one. To this end, Wilson stood with a serious expression in front of a group of scientific researchers in white coats, loudly introducing the next research project. After becoming a level 5 civilization, although there has not been a war requiring the use of naval guns, the research on antimatter naval guns has never been interrupted. Today, the antimatter naval gun has been updated twice, and its power and range are much stronger than before. But Wilson was not satisfied. Especially after the annihilation battle against Eugene civilization. As for the reason, thinking of someone's face after the Battle of Eugene, the expression on Wilson's face became increasingly difficult to look at. It is precisely for this reason that he decided to start the intensive research mission of antimatter naval guns again. Fortunately, military research has always been at the top priority of the Academy of Sciences, so Wilson's request was quickly approved. Just when he was withdrawing his thoughts and preparing to discuss improvement plans with his scientific researchers, an inappropriate shout came from behind. Wilson, the well-spoken Chinese has a somewhat peculiar accent. The familiar snapping sound made Wilson's face darken instantly. What do you think is the feasibility of this transformation plan? Wilson took a deep breath, pretending that he was deaf, and continued to communicate with the scientific researchers in front of him. Wilson, the voice behind him obviously had a hint of anger, and at the same time, there was a rush of footsteps approaching from far away. Academician. Wilson, behind you. A scientific researcher swallowed slightly and carefully raised his finger to point behind Wilson. Don't worry about that old guy. Wilson waved his hand angrily and continued. Look at this plan carefully, Wilson. As if after hearing Wilson's words, the shouts behind him became louder. Academician. Yevgeny. Wilson's ears twitched slightly. When the rapid footsteps came behind him, he slowly turned around and looked at him impatiently. You don't study your own missiles. What are you doing here? Correction. Yevgeny denied Wilson's words with exaggerated expressions and movements. It's a curvature missile, not an ordinary missile, Wilson. Hard point the fastest hard point ever. Since the battle against the Eugene civilization, Yevgeny had become a lot more arrogant in front of him. Okay, curvature missiles. Wilson gritted his teeth and said, why don't you study your warp missiles? Yevgeny shrugged. We have made a breakthrough and significantly increased the missile's sailing speed. At the same time, we have also added a variable trajectory function to it. The accuracy and power of the new generation of curvature missiles will be greatly enhanced. When Wilson heard this, he was suddenly shocked. Come again. Is this breakthrough so easy to achieve? Unconsciously, his fist became hard again. Said Wilson, stop studying your antimatter naval gun, that is as slow as a snail. Yevgeny said with a smile on his face. It is too powerful. What did I say? Kinetic weapons are the truth. Wilson's mouth twitched sharply. I admit that the breakthrough in curvature technology has opened up a new world for kinetic energy weapons, but the advantages of energy weapons are definitely not comparable to those of mere kinetic energy weapons. You, a guy who can only use brute force, will never feel the charm of energy weapons. The expression on Yevgeny's face suddenly froze. After just a few seconds, his stubble-covered face quickly turned red like a cooked prawn at a speed visible to the naked eye. What did you say? Kinetic weapons are brute force. Look at the war against the Eugene civilization. The level of detail is no less than a brain transplant surgery performed on you. Did those energy weapons you were so proud of have any effect at all? Wilson fell silent. No matter what, the war against Eugene's civilization was an established fact that he could not refute. High-yield kinetic energy weapons equipped with curvature navigation function once again shined brightly in interstellar wars by simply stacking the equivalent and increasing the speed. Its lethality can be increased almost infinitely. Wilson had to admit that the kinetic weapons equipped with curvature technology made him feel a little powerless. He opened his mouth and blushed. The fleets of both sides will always have close contact, and then, at that time, will your antimatter cannons really be powerful enough? Yevgeny interrupted Wilson's words. Wilson fell silent again. Beep. A crisp reminder sounded in the comprehensive laboratory, interrupting the conversation between the two. Academician. Wilson, Professor Liu is waiting for you in the office. Please go as soon as possible. The cold electronic synthesized sound sounded like heavenly music to Wilson's ears at this moment. Professor Liu has a new weapon plan. After a short silence, Wilson and Yevgeny said in unison. However, the expressions on their faces were not the same. Wilson had a surprised smile on his face, while Yevgeny had a bit of embarrassment and resentment on his face. The slap in the face seemed to come too quickly. Old man, wait. Wilson threw a provocative look at Yevgeny and turned to walk towards the laboratory door. As for Yevgeny, he had already turned and ran towards his own experimental area. What are you all doing for a break? Have you made the finished product? No. You dare to rest if you haven't. The rest of the academicians stopped their work and laughed quietly. Similar scenes are played out almost every few days. This has almost become a reserved project of the Weapons Research and Development Comprehensive Laboratory. It's just that Wilson has been unilaterally crushed during this period, which gradually gave them a sense of boredom. Now this incident has aroused the interest of these academicians in watching the show again. Chapter 707 Efficiency. More than 10 minutes later, Wilson sat in the chair in front of his desk with a nervous look, carefully looking at the holographic image in front of LV Yongchang. High energy neutron storm. When he saw these words, Wilson subconsciously frowned. As the name suggests, this is a lethal weapon achieved with the help of high energy neutrons. The main target of attack is naturally carbon-based organisms as early as the Earth era. Humans have mastered this lethal method. Neutron bomb. A low equivalent small hydrogen bomb with high energy neutron radiation as the main lethality point. After strengthening the radioactivity and weakening the explosion power, it will cause little damage to buildings and facilities, and will not cause long-term radioactive pollution. It is mainly used to kill organisms in buildings, but such weapons, in today's view, are too weak. Wilson's eyes suddenly revealed a hint of disappointment. Just now, the report sent back by the interstellar probe found a planet with low intelligence carbon-based life. LV. Yongchang's voice suddenly sounded as if talking to himself. According to various assessments, this planet has a high transformation and colonization value, but the low intelligence carbon-based creatures inside it are a big obstacle. As he spoke, Yongchang raised his hand and gestured in the holographic projection on the side. A faint blue planet quickly emerged. As the camera zoomed in quickly, Wilson gradually identified the source of the faint blue point, a vine-like plant with faint blue leaves. The vines were connected to each other, covering the entire planet like a giant primeval forest. As the camera continued to zoom in, Wilson clearly observed that among these vines, there were insect-like creatures of various shapes. They either ate plants, or fought, or killed each other. The scenes formed a primitive and wild picture. This is a planet numbered HIP 22580 F, 23.35 light years away. Against the backdrop of the holographic image, LV Yongchang's voice was somewhat ethereal and unreal. The star system it is in has two F-type stars. That's why there are a lot of anthocyanins in the leaves of these plants, making their leaves appear blue. Binary star system? Wilson murmured in a low voice. LV Yongchang glanced at Wilson and moved his eyes back to the clear holographic image. The masses of these two F-type stars are 1.53 and 1.62 times the mass of the sun, respectively. The surface temperature is around 6300 K and 6600 K. The radiation intensity in the star system is relatively high. Although it lacks a certain amount of gamma rays, it still belongs to the habitable star system of NUS civilization. What's more, the problem of gamma rays can be solved later. After hearing this, Wilson completely understood. Professor, are you going to use neutron weapons to eliminate the life on this planet? LV. Yongchang nodded gently. Yes, the intention network of NUS civilization has high scientific research value. It is extremely wasteful to let it stay dormant in the laboratory. HIP 22580 F is very good. The corpses of these life forms can provide enough nutrients for the growth of NUS civilization. Speaking of this, Yongchang's voice paused slightly in order not to destroy its original surface structure, and at the same time, in order to solve this small matter as quickly as possible, I think neutron weapons are a good choice. Maybe some people think that this method of completely eliminating life forms and leaving only inorganic matter is too evil and cruel, but I choose to call it efficient. Wilson frowned slightly, his eyes full of hesitation. Professor, it is not easy to accelerate neutrons. Will it be difficult to implement a high-energy neutron torrent attack covering the entire planet? LV. Yongchang chuckled and opened a holographic image again. The image is full of dense data and formulas. The Grand Unified Field is a product based on the Grand Unified Theory. Looking at Wilson's confused eyes, LV Yongchang explained it briefly. Just like the magnetic field can control the movement of charged particles, in theory, the Grand Unified Field can control the movement of all particles in the current theoretical model. This provides a theoretical basis for the large-scale emission of high-energy neutrons. Next, it's your business. In the war, this weapon must also have a good effect. Wilson carefully checked the formula in the holographic image, and the confusion in his eyes gradually decreased, replaced by a faint excitement. Professor, I will take the team to solve this problem now. As he said, he hurriedly got up from his chair and ran towards the office door. Although the high-energy neutron storm does not have much effect on the starships of high-level civilizations, it is definitely a world-destroying killer for low-level civilizations, not to mention these low-intelligence life forms living on the planet. Even most of the 4th-level civilizations do not have much good defense against this. The reason is very simple. The magnetic field shield cannot stop these uncharged high energy particles. Civilizations at level 4 and below have no other way to resist this horrific attack except to place their hopes on the radiation shield. This is the charm of energy weapons. Thinking of Yevgen's livid face, Wilson's excitement became stronger again. etc. Lu Yongchang called out to stop Wilson, who was halfway out the door. Is this enough, Wilson? After a few seconds he sat back in his chair with anticipation, looking longingly at Lu Yongchang sitting in front of him. Professor, do you have any other weapon plans? Upon hearing Wilson's question, Lu Yongchang glanced at him strangely. Of course, high energy neutron storm is nothing more than a ranged weapon to deal with low-level civilizations. If you want to deal with the starships of the 5th level civilization, you will naturally need more powerful weapons. Hearing this, Wilson took a sharp breath. Coming. The highlight he's been waiting for is finally here. Lu Yongchang didn't pay attention to Wilson's nervous and excited expression and just opened a new document on his own. This research is relatively difficult. I only have a small clue. Even the theoretical part has not been completely completed. As he spoke, he raised his hand and tapped lightly on the holographic projection. Material. Disintegration ray. Based on the grand unified theory. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 708, Yongchang Ship. Matter. Disintegration ray. Wilson's pupils trembled slightly, and he repeated Lu Yongchang's words in a low voice. Confusion and shock were written on his face. Just a noun made him feel the powerful power it contained. Wilson took a deep breath, calmed down the shock in his heart, and asked in a low voice, Professor, how does this disintegration ray work? Lu Yongchang raised his hand, clicked a few times on the holographic projection again, and explained carefully, disintegration ray. This name may have caused some misunderstandings for you. It is actually another way to use the grand unified field. To be precise, it should be called the material disintegration force field. By disintegrating the electromagnetic interaction between molecules and atoms, macroscopic matter in the conventional sense undergoes a disintegration reaction. Hiss. Wilson gasped again. Professor, can this really be done? Theoretically, not only the electromagnetic interaction between molecules and atoms, but also the strong and weak interactions can be affected and controlled. Lu Yongchang shrugged and said somewhat helplessly, it's just that our current technological level is far from enough. Wilson subconsciously held his breath and stared blankly at Lu Yongchang in front of him. If the emergence of laser weapons means the beginning of energy weapons, then the material disintegration field, based on the grand unified theory, completely opens another door to energy weapons. That's probably what happened. Lu Yongchang clapped his hands gently, stood up from his seat, and continued, I will personally lead this project, and you will be my deputy. He frowned and clicked his tongue softly. I will try to work out this theory during this time. You should solve the matter at hand as soon as possible. This project may consume a lot of energy and time. Lu Yongchang, who had not heard the response, subconsciously raised his head and looked at Wilson with a surprised look on his face. Is it okay? Wilson snapped back to reality. Facing Lu Yongchang's gaze, he nodded hastily and responded, No problem, Professor. Wait a moment. I'm going to solve the project at hand. What? A joke. Can the research on strengthening antimatter naval guns be compared with this thing? People's Federation Megastructure Engineering Department. Drop. A crisp voice came, breaking the peace in the office. Academician Tang Heron carefully finished the work in his hands, and then raised his head to look at the holographic image in front of him. In the blue interface, a yellow message appeared. The yellow light flickered slowly, seeming to indicate something. Tang Heron raised his eyebrows, with a bit of surprise in his eyes. Information with such a high priority. Is there another problem with resource supply. Thinking of Wang Man's old boy's complaining tone, Tang Heron trembled slightly and hurriedly opened the message with yellow light point. After a quick glance, Tang Heron froze on the spot. This he swallowed hard, and a touch of ecstasy quickly emerged from his eyes. Finally, here, the planetary fortress project can finally begin. Looking at the detailed document in front of him, Tang Heron stood up from his chair excitedly. A few years later, Earth calendar year 3630. The high energy neutron storm research project was a complete success, considering that the targets attacked by neutron storm are all very large targets, living planets or low-level civilization fleets. The size and power of the entire device have also been greatly increased. To this end, the People's Federation's megastructure engineering department specially designed and built a megastructure project for it. Such a powerful life-harvesting weapon has a poetic name, Forgotten Ship. The origin of its name is naturally the myth of the original Xia Kingdom. Yongchang River Yongchang ship has a segmented structure and its overall shape is fusiform. Energy system, power system. Almost all components are installed on the head of the Forgotten Ship. Of course, this also includes most of the components of high energy neutron storm. As for the lower part of the Yongchang ship, it is made up of some long sheet-like claws similar to solar sails fitted together after being activated. These devices, named Grand Unified Field Sails, will quickly expand and generate and control the Grand Unified Field. Its overall size even exceeds the planet level, Earth. For safety reasons, the first test of the Yongchang ship was arranged in space far away from the Kepler 452 star system. The target is a planet-class home ship carrying a large number of animals and plants. In order to accurately measure its power, except for the fact that this planet-class home ship is not equipped with a gravitational shield, all other defense facilities have been implemented to the extreme. It can be said that in terms of pure radiation resistance, it even surpasses the flagship of human civilization, Earth high energy neutron storm. The first experiment starts now. Yongchang stood on the command podium and gave the order solemnly. Ship Yongchang, unfold the sails of the Great Unification. The Tachyon signal was transmitted to the outside of the Kepler 452 star system at an extremely high speed, and was quickly transmitted to the fusiform Yongchang ship, waiting in place. The 6 Grand Unified Field Sails at the tail of the Yongchang ship slowly opened their claws like an octopus. The center of the claw was firmly aimed at the target starship in the distance. Start charging. LV Yongchang did not wait and continued to issue orders. It takes a lot of energy to create a high energy neutron storm. Even the Yongchang ship, equipped with several latest antimatter engines, needs a certain amount of time to charge. Time passed by minute. Watching the progress bar gradually fill up, LV Yongchang took a deep breath and issued the last command in a deep voice. High energy neutron storm, launch. The moment the voice fell, a dazzling light lit up on the 6 Grand Unified Field Sails of the Yongchang ship. In the dark and deep universe, it seemed that a star with extremely strong light suddenly appeared. As a special energy gradually gathered, the Grand Unified Field began to be gradually generated. When the intensity of the Grand Unified Field increased to the standard value, the gate at the claw heart slowly opened. Endless neutrons gushed out from it, rapidly accelerated under the influence of the Grand Unified Field, and rushed towards the target ship with energy. A few minutes later, the high-energy neutrons that crossed a long distance swept through the target starship that stayed in place like a storm. The thick protective layer was as weak as a piece of paper in front of the high-energy neutron flow with a high enough energy level. In an instant, an extremely harsh alarm sounded in the target ship. Chapter 709. Consequences. The alarm did not last long. After a few seconds, as the power of the high-energy neutron storm reached its peak, the control system in the target ship was completely destroyed, and the piercing alarm sounded. 3 minutes later, the light on the 6 large unified sails of the Forget River ship gradually dimmed, and the gate at the claw heart slowly closed. This extremely powerful high-energy neutron storm came to an end at this moment. The neutron storm gradually dissipated, leaving only a target ship with fine and ends holes on its surface, like a lifeless corpse. quietly staying in place. Those fine and dense holes, large or small, are radiation damage caused by high energy neutrons. 0. Start the landing operation. Send a robot in for a comprehensive inspection. Received. The moment the electronic synthesized sound sounded, a small landing ship left the safe area and headed towards the target ship. There is still a lot of radiation left. LV Yongchang looked at the various test data sent back and murmured in a low voice, but the radiation intensity is decreasing very quickly, and it won't take long to return to its original state. The landing ship slowly docked at the hatch of the target ship point. Since the control system was completely destroyed, Zero couldn't control the hatch to open at all. This was not a big problem for these landing robots equipped with anti-radiation armor. The small laser cannon instantly bombarded the hatch and quickly melted the hatch full of holes. It didn't take long for a hole to be cut out on the hatch that was large enough for the robot to enter. The cut part of the hatch, under the action of the laser cannon, fell heavily into the target ship, and after touching the deck, it quickly changed direction and floated towards the interior of the starship. The artificial gravity system is paralyzed. LV Yongchang raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "It seems that this neutron storm is really lethal to low-level civilizations." Under the action of the propulsion device, the robot ran towards the biological area inside the starship. A few minutes later, a tragic scene appeared in front of everyone. The originally peaceful home ship has completely changed. All kinds of animal corpses and decaying plant leaves float quietly in the air. The cabin is filled with a strong smell of decay and blood. A green light flashed, and the vital signs scanner automatically turned on. No signs of life have been found yet. Looking at the line of text and the holographic projection, Lu Yongchang took a deep breath again. "The effect is very good." He nodded with satisfaction. "Yongchang ship, set off tomorrow. Go to the HIP 22580 star system to perform the cleaning mission. Earth, calendar year 3631. A small fleet appeared outside the HIP 22580 star system without any warning. Under Zero's remote control, the fleet did not stop at all and headed straight for a blue planet in the star system, in the empty starfield 1.69 light years away from the HIP 22580 star system and 24.97 light years away from the Kepler 452 star system. A complex fleet quietly sailed in the deep and dark universe. Every starship in the fleet was full of traces of artillery fire. It is not difficult to imagine that this is a fleet that has experienced countless wars. The direction they are heading is the HIP 22580 star system. Inside the central starship. A Eugene Lizardman with fine scales on his body stayed in the monitoring room carelessly, looking at the starry sky outside the small porthole. Boredly, bang, a loud noise came from behind, scaring it so much that it trembled all over, and its orange-yellow vertical pupils shrank into a straight line. It turned around angrily and looked behind it, only to see a strong Eugene Lizardman looking at it with disdain. This anger came quickly and went away quickly. The moment it saw the person coming, the anger in its heart had disappeared without a trace. It changed into a respectful expression, crouched as low as possible, and showed respect to the other party. In a zero-gravity environment, this was difficult to do. "Hey." The Emperor sent an inquiry. The person looked at it with his thick nostrils and said unhappily, "It's been so long. Hasn't General Kori sent back the news of victory?" Hearing this, it was stunned. General Kori, in my impression, it seems to have been sent on a mission. It's that third-level civilization with almost no armed forces. The adult said impatiently. "It seems to be called Pteridon civilization, and the Emperor values them very much. So much time has passed. Has General Kor sent back any information?" Its long deposited memory quickly became active, and it nodded repeatedly. "My lord, I remember, but General Kor, there has been no news in the past few years." Seeing that the visitor's face turned ugly, it hurriedly added, "My lord, this is normal. It is common for interstellar wars to last for more than 10 years, perhaps." General Kor wanted to give the Emperor a surprise. It guessed with difficulty. Seeing that the adult's face looked a little better, it breathed a sigh of relief quietly. Escaped. Send a long-distance communication message to General Kor and ask about the situation on his side. The hoarse voice of the adult came again, making it suddenly raise its already fragile heart. It hurriedly turned around and operated on the console in front. Time passed slowly. It did not receive any response information. What's going on? The adult behind him asked in a deep voice. Why is there no response? I don't know. A bad thought arose in its mind, and its limbs trembled slightly while it answered in a panic. Waste. The adult scolded. Show me the last message sent by General Corey. It used its trembling claws to call up a message from several years ago. The priority of the information was extremely low, and it was a log message sent during normal navigation. Under normal circumstances, no one would look through this information. The adult quickly skipped all kinds of miscellaneous information and dragged the log information to the bottom. Swish. It watched the adult's orange-yellow pupils shrink into a straight vertical line. Damn it. Under its gaze, the master glared at it fiercely, turned around and rushed out of the monitoring room. Come on, can it for me? The moment it heard this, it felt its legs soften, and a stream of heat slowly flowed out from its buttocks. What happened? At the moment the guard rushed into the monitoring room, it glanced at the log information on the screen. We encountered a high-level civilization fleet. The civilization level is suspected to be level 5. In order to ensure the safety of the fleet, the Taladan civilization capture mission will be suspended for 7 days. After 7 days, depending on the situation, I will report the information to the mothership again. It's over. This thought flashed through its mind. P.S. Tomato has opened a fan group. It is on the author's personal homepage. If you are interested, you can add it. Chapter 710 Eugene Fleet. Great Migration of Civilization. Eugene Civilization. Flagship Command Center. A tall Eugene lizardman sat on the command seat with his eyes slightly closed, as if he was conserving his energy. He was the 369th emperor of the Eugene Civilization. No matter from which angle, he was the most powerful emperor in the history of the Eugene Civilization. Under his leadership, the Eugene Civilization successfully gained a foothold in this starfield and created its current reputation. Your Majesty, His Excellency Yves is back. The moment the voice sounded, the Eugene Emperor, with his eyes slightly closed, slowly opened his slightly white eyelids, revealing his orange-yellow vertical pupils. Emperor, His Excellency Yves. The lizardman who spoke was hesitant to speak. Emperor Eugene's eyes moved slightly, and he glanced at the crew member who was speaking with his vertical pupils, and said in an impatient tone, just say it directly. If you have anything to say. Do you want to be a canned food too? As soon as the voice fell, the guards waiting on the side quickly stepped forward and stared at the crew member with murderous and bloodthirsty eyes. Mr. Yves seems to be in a panic. General Cormay, let it come to see me. Emperor Eugene sat up straight, and the expression on his face gradually became serious. A few minutes later, accompanied by a hurried and flustered footsteps, a lizard man stumbled and ran in front of Emperor Eugene. Bang! Under the equivalent gravity generated by rotation, its body fell heavily on the deck, making a dull sound. This scene made Emperor Eugene's face more solemn. Respected Emperor, the fleet led by General Corey may have met with an accident. What? The moment he heard this, Emperor Eugene's expression changed drastically. He jumped up from his chair and stretched out his sharp claws, grabbing his neck and pulling him in front of him. The Taladan civilization is just a third-level civilization without armed forces. How could General Corey meet with an accident? Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Yves, whose neck was grabbed, had his eyes slightly white, and said with great difficulty, the fleet seems to have encountered a higher civilization. Higher civilization? Emperor Eugene relaxed his strength a little, giving Yves a chance to breathe. When did this starfield have a 4th level civilization? Feeling the strength on his neck relax a little, Yves took a few quick breaths. Yes, it's a 5th level civilization. As soon as the voice fell, Emperor Eugene's breath was choked, and his orange-yellow vertical pupils instantly shrank into a straight line. Yves could even see that the fine scales on the Emperor's body were slightly erected. Obviously, its words brought an extremely huge impact to the powerful Emperor. Bang! The Next moment, accompanied by a familiar dull sound, Yves was thrown to the ground again. Emperor Eugene sat back in his seat again, breathing heavily, and licked the mucus on his eyelids with his tongue. Tell me, what's going on? Yves endured the pain from all over his body, quickly adjusted his posture, crawled at the emperor's feet, and explained quickly. After listening to Yves' explanation, Emperor Eugene's face became more gloomy, and the sense of uneasiness in his heart became more intense. Go, send a technician to check it out. See what happened to Course Fleet. Someone has been sent to check it out. The crew member on the side responded cautiously. It won't take much time to get the results. Before the voice fell, the panicked shouts from the technicians rang out at the dark door. Oh no, Your Majesty, something has happened. All the warships led by General Corey have lost contact. The quantum long-distance communication device is no longer working properly. The technicians shout confirmed Emperor Eugene's guess. Level 5 civilization. It sat on the chair, took a deep breath, and tried to calm its inner panic as much as possible. Damn it. How can there be a level 5 civilization in this starfield? Its rapidly shrinking vertical pupils still clearly show the Emperor's inner fear. Although Eugene's civilization has never faced a level 5 civilization, the inexplicable disappearance of the Corey fleet, and even without time to issue a warning message, is enough to prove the power of the level 5 civilization. What to do? Emperor Eugene's brain was working rapidly. The rich experience of war told it the final answer, even if this answer made it extremely unwilling. After a long silence, Emperor Eugene exhaled a long breath of turbid air and issued an order with his only reason. Designate that starfield as a restricted area. Order all branch fleets to abandon all missions and stay away at all costs. It was silent again for a while and continued to order speed up the fleet's sailing speed, and after replenishing the necessary supplies at the target star system, immediately stay away from this starfield. The destination, let's set it 500 light years away. As soon as the voice fell, the command center was in an uproar. Respected Emperor, I'm afraid it's unnecessary, a crew member asked cautiously. We have finally achieved our current status in this starfield. Once we go to other starfields, I'm worried. The words of this crew member obviously aroused the agreement of many people. For a moment, there was a whisper in the command center. The sound was not loud, but it was extremely harsh to Emperor Eugene. Emperor Eugene turned his head sharply and stared at the crew member with bloodshot orange-yellow pupils. Are you questioning my order? Take him away. Make him into a can. It squeezed out an order from its sharp teeth. The moment the crew member was dragged away, the whispers in the command center instantly disappeared. Get everything clear for me. I am the Emperor of Eugene civilization. Without me, can Eugene's civilization develop to the point it is now? What identity and status are you qualified to question me? It slightly narrowed its bloodthirsty eyes, looked at the figure that was gradually moving away, and spat with disdain. Then, it once again looked at the crew members around it with its bloodshot eyes, and shouted in a hoarse voice, what are you still standing there for? The fleet will speed up immediately. After completing the replenishment of supplies, start the great migration of civilization. The dead silent command center became busy again. Emperor Eugene waved his hand impatiently, letting the crew around him disperse, and closed his eyes again. Everything seemed to have returned to the way it was a few hours ago. But from the trembling white eyelids of Emperor Eugene and the oppressive atmosphere in the command center, it can be seen that the current Eugene civilization is not as calm as it appears on the surface. Chapter 711. Who did you learn this technique of drawing cakes from? HIP 22580 star system. The dazzling light slowly dissipated, and the Yongchang ship retracted its 6 open sails and returned to its original spindle shape. A 3-minute long high energy neutron storm has been emitted and is rushing towards the target planet at a speed close to the speed of light. The water of Leather River surges endlessly, playing the music of death in this inconspicuous star system. Around the Yongchang ship, there is a small escort fleet composed of Zuanwu frigates and Golden Crow battleships. Further away, silver-white spherical detectors whizzed past the star system, carefully exploring the other planets in the star system. The camera switches to the target planet again, HIP 22580 F. The high energy neutron storm has crossed a long distance and rushed into the atmosphere of the target planet like a shower. Neutrons are not electrically charged, so you cannot see any fantastic aurora scenes with the naked eye. But as time went by, a strange scene appeared in the camera. A withered yellow circular area suddenly appeared in the area directly opposite the forgotten ship. Subsequently, the dry yellow round area rapidly spread towards the surroundings at a speed visible to the naked eye. This planet, which originally appeared blue under the reflection of plants, is gradually turning into a dead yellow planet under the attack of the forgotten ship. The high energy neutron storm is over as the high energy neutron flow gradually dissipated. The silver-white detector quickly headed towards the target planet and turned on the most powerful life detection instrument. The high energy neutron storm has been completed. No trace of life has been detected on the target planet. Looking at the flashing yellow information in front of him, Yongchang put down his work and let out a long sigh of relief. 0. Prepare to land. Yongchang glanced at the various data sent back by the detector and murmured hesitantly, the intensity of gamma rays is far from reaching the target. I wonder if these giant trees can adapt to the environment here. After struggling for a moment, he shook his head and slightly modified his original plan. First sow some seeds from the abandoned giant trees and see if they can survive. Let us wait a little longer. After the demise of the Forsaken Star, the offspring in the laboratory naturally inherited the name Nus. Roger. At the same time as the electronic synthesizer sounded, in the holographic image on one side, several small starships left the fleet and headed towards the withered yellow planet. Yongchang turned his attention to the scene in front of him again and shook his head helplessly. The theoretical basis of the material disintegration field should take a long time to complete. Sure enough, it was exactly as he thought. The development process of energy weapons of this level was definitely not that simple. He sighed softly and turned his attention back to this difficult job again. 1 month later, Professor, the experiment failed. Zeros. Electronic synthesized sound interrupted Yongchang's thoughts and pulled him out of the theoretical model in front of him. What experiment? Yongchang's eyes were full of confusion. The seeds of the lost giant trees sown on HIP 22580 are all dead. The electronic synthesized voice continued to be heard, and at the same time, real-time image data from 23 light years away was presented in front of him. Looking at the planet that was still withered and yellow, Yongchang couldn't help but frowned. It's really still a problem with gamma rays. He stood up from his seat and walked out of the office. Let the fleet stay where it is. Receive. That's roughly the situation. Yongchang stood in the laboratory and said with some helplessness, to a certain extent, the living conditions of Nus civilization are too harsh, but the formed Nus civilization will have a great impact on our subsequent research. So, let's talk about it. Is there any better solution? Artificially create gamma rays? Mao Zedong's voice came. Create several large-scale antimatter reactors in synchronous orbits and use the annihilation of matter and antimatter to produce gamma rays on a large scale. Yongchang slowly shook his head. This solution is not difficult to implement for current human civilization. But considering the materials it consumes, what a waste. Tao Yuda retorted without hesitation. Academician Mao, do you know how much antimatter is wasted? Let me give you a preliminary estimate. Considering Nus civilizations, absorption efficiency of gamma rays, and the escape of gamma rays. Tao Yuda dragged over a holographic image and started writing on it quickly. With Zero's auxiliary calculations, the results were quickly presented to everyone. Conservatively, we need to build a Dyson cloud system to specifically supply these antimatter reactors. Tao Yuda shrugged. I think this is outrageous. Yongchang nodded slightly and expressed his agreement. Even if human civilization does not currently lack energy, such wasteful behavior is not a normal development path after all. Then, what method do you have? Mao Zedong's face turned slightly red, and he asked Tao Yuda, don't tell me that you are going to abandon this star system and find a suitable planet to provide habitation for Nus civilization. Land. I'm Telling you, the biological laboratory is in urgent need of all kinds of test data from the complete body of NUS civilization, especially the data of the network of intentions. We have preliminarily completed the work of associating bioelectric signals with human consciousness. As long as there is enough data support, we may soon be able to master the secrets of human consciousness. LV. Yongchang glanced at Mao Zengzi, whose face was slightly red, in surprise. I never expected that Mao Zengzi would lead the biological laboratory to advance this research project to this point without saying a word. Ahem. Although there are no definite experimental results yet, I believe that with the help of NUS civilization, the biological laboratory will soon be able to produce experimental results. Seeing the look LV Yongchang cast at him, Mao Zengzi touched his nose with a guilty conscience and explained in a low voice, "Professor, you have to believe me, LV Yongchang, you're already drawing big pictures when the research is still in the theoretical stage, right? I really don't know who you learned this skill of drawing big pictures from." LV Yongchang complained in a low voice with a frown on his face. As soon as the voice fell, the noisy laboratory suddenly became quiet. Looking at the strange looks of the people around him, Lu Yongchang suddenly realized something. He showed some embarrassment in his eyes and changed the subject abruptly. Ahem. That. Tao Yuda, tell me about your plan. PS. Group 1 is full. I opened a new group 2. Friends who haven't joined the group yet can join the group 2 in addition. Considering that the author didn't even take a day off for his birthday, it shouldn't be too much to ask for a free gift. CAC Chapter 712, Stellar Core Reaction Interference Device. Although LV Yongchang's way of changing the subject was very abrupt, it still attracted the attention of most people in the laboratory. The reason was naturally because of Tao Yuda's previous outstanding achievements in the laboratory. Seeing everyone looking at him expectantly, Tao Yuda could only touch the tip of his nose with a little embarrassment and hesitated to express his thoughts. The main star of the star system where NUS civilization used to live would periodically release gamma rays. I wonder why we can't just do it to the two main stars of the HIP 22580 star system. As long as we add fuel to the nuclear fusion reaction inside the main star and make it more intense, perhaps we can artificially create a flare star under our control. Since most of the energy is provided by the star itself, the consumption of this plan will not be too much. While speaking, Tao Yuda glanced at Mao Zengzi beside him and added another knife. At least, it is much less than the plan proposed by academician Mao Zengzi. Although he felt a little aggrieved, he still swallowed his breath silently. There is no way anyone with a discerning eye knows how big the gap between the two plans is. Professor, what do you think? Mao Zengzi shifted his gaze and cast his eyes on LV Yongchang, who was still silent. Not a bad idea, LV. Yongchang frowned slightly and murmured in a low voice, but it may be difficult to implement, affecting the nuclear fusion reaction inside the star. Let me think about it. Under the gaze of the academicians, he slowly walked to a chair beside him and then closed his eyes. Even LV Yongchang was a little unsure about this whimsical plan at this time, so he could only seek off-site assistance on the spot. Hang up. Come. As for the other academicians in the laboratory, they were no longer surprised by LV Yongchang's habit. Tao Yuda shrugged and spoke first. Let's all go. According to convention, the professor may have to wait a while before he can give us an answer. In the mottled background space, LV Yongchang's consciousness floated in front of the white technology tree. Under the guidance of the technology tree, he turned on the switch in his mind again. Overclocking began. Inspirations emerged like soap bubbles. The white technology tree gradually changed. A thin line slowly stretched out from the grand unified theory at the bottom and extended all the way up to the tip of the 5th level civilization. Technology tree. A dim cursor slowly emerged. Stellar Core Reaction Interference Device. Unlike the ordinary cursors growing on the trunk of the technology tree, this dim cursor is like an extra branch growing on the technology tree. Seeing this, Lu Yongchang's eyes moved slightly. Such scenes have appeared several times in the past. According to his experience, this often means that this technology is not the mainstream technology of the current civilization level. Generally speaking, it may be the pre-technology of a certain technology that can only be mastered by the 6th level civilization. Sure enough. After waiting for a while, a thin line extended from the dim cursor again and stretched directly to the fog at the top of the 5th level civilization technology tree. Without any hesitation, the thin line directly penetrated the ceiling and went deep into the fog. LV Yongchang subconsciously widened the eyes of the consciousness body, trying to see the picture in the fog clearly. The appearance of the thin line temporarily reduced the density of the fog, which satisfied LV Yongchang's desire to pry. Under his gaze, the thin line finally connected to a very dim cursor. Starburst. Before he could see the font on the cursor clearly, the fog density returned to normal again, and his sight was completely blocked from the fog. Although it was just a glimpse, the huge amount of information revealed in it made LV Yongchang's heart beat violently. Starburst? Starburst. What else could it be when it comes to the explosion of stars? Supernova explosion. This is one of the most extreme conditions in the universe. A level 6 civilization can be so powerful. He subconsciously held his breath and cast his eyes on the technology tree in front of him again. The dim, stellar core reaction interference device cursor attracted his attention like poison. In the quantized brain, inspiration continued to rise and disappear. LV Yongchang, who was lying on his back on the chair, suddenly opened his eyes and gasped. Since his brain was quantized, he had not experienced such a feeling for a long time. Under the protection mechanism, he was forced to kick out of the technology tree system. Professor, perhaps it was because of Lu Yongchang's overly intense reaction that attracted Tao Yuda's attention. He raised his voice and asked Lu Yongchang loudly, "Are you okay, LV?" Yongchang did not turn his head, but just waved in the direction of Tao Yuda and said in a slightly hoarse voice, "No, it's okay." He took a deep breath and calmed the inspiration gushing out of his quantum brain and the violently beating heart in his chest. Footsteps came from far away. Then, my plan, LV. Yongchang raised his head slightly and met Tao Yuda's anxious and expectant eyes. The plan is very good. It is very feasible. Lu Yongchang gave his evaluation without hesitation. Really? Hearing this comment, Tao Yuda's eyes brightened up instantly, and his speaking speed also increased a lot. Professor, I think that the interference plan for the core of a star should be based on the Grand Unified Theory. I have carefully read the Grand Unified Field you studied some time ago. Perhaps we can use the Grand Unified Field to affect the intensity of the fusion reaction in the core of a star. As Tao Yuda spoke, he hurriedly dragged a holographic image from the side. In the image, there were densely packed complex formulas and deduction processes. LV Yongchang carefully checked it, and a gratified smile gradually appeared on his face. "You said it very well. This coincides with my idea, and the application of the Grand Unified Theory is far less than this. Through the Grand Unified Field, injecting enough powerful energy into the interior of the star can completely trigger a more intense fusion reaction in the core of the star." As he spoke, he raised his hand and called out his research records on the material disintegration field and placed it side by side with Tao Yuda's deduction process. "Do you know what this means?" LV Yongchang muttered in a low voice with a bit of enthusiasm in his eyes. Tao Yuda shook his head in confusion. "One day in the future, when our technology is advanced enough, we can even directly detonate a star and artificially create a supernova explosion." LV Yongchang said excitedly, "Control of stars, this is a technology that only a 6th level civilization can have." Hiss. Tao Yuda subconsciously took a breath of cold air. He never thought that his accidental research would actually produce such an exaggerated technology. However, this is only in theory at present. LV Yongchang lightly poured a basin of cold water on Tao Yuda, cooling down his somewhat heated head. "What we need to solve now is the pre-technology of this technology." As he said, LV Yongchang quickly integrated the inspiration in his mind and wrote a series of complex formulas on the holographic image in front of him. A brand new model, based on the Grand Unified Theory, gradually took shape under Tao Yuda's gaze. Chapter 713 Awakening Ceremony. The progress of the theoretical system quickly broke through the original scientific research bottleneck. The research project on stellar core reaction interference device, quickly got on track. At the same time, research work in this area also gave Liu Yongchang a lot of inspiration about the material disintegration field. That to complement each other and bring great promotion effects. 5 years later, Earth calendar year 3635. The first generation stellar core reaction interference device was successfully launched. According to theoretical data, this giant device, which is as large as the moon, can greatly enhance the nuclear fusion reaction in the core of the star and cause it to release powerful enough gamma rays. Of course, this is still far from triggering a supernova explosion. However, the successful launch of this device still ignited research enthusiasm within the Academy of Sciences. Same year, Kepler 452b has completed the final step of modification work. Looking at the huge blue and green planet outside the porthole, Liu Yongchang showed a bit of joy in his eyes. Although I don't know how long this peace will last, the completion of the new home has finally brought a lot of positive feedback to human civilization that has been wandering for a long time. He could clearly feel that the Academy of Sciences was filled with a festive atmosphere during this period. Almost every scientific researcher has a touch of joy and expectation in their eyes. Not only that, interstellar flights with the Pandaren and the Taladins have also been officially opened. The first batch of Taladins who have completed genetic enhancement as envoys arrived in the Kepler 452 star system a few days ago. They are about to witness the largest and most solemn ceremony in the history of human civilization. Professor, Counselor Han asks you to go to Kepler 452b as soon as possible. The awakening ceremony is about to begin. Electronic, synthesized sounds sounded from the side, pulling him back from his divergent thoughts. But the corners of Liu Yongchang's mouth raised slightly with a faint smile, and he walked steadily towards the shuttle not far away. At present, the starships of human civilization are too large to take off and land on the surface of the planet. Some types of very large starships are even forced to disintegrate due to tidal forces. Therefore, small shuttles have become the most convenient means of transportation. But the shuttle's transport capacity is ultimately inferior to that of a large starship. Liu Yongchang also had a vague idea in his heart. Perhaps is it time for anti-gravity technology to be put on the scientific research agenda. In the past scientific research time, his understanding of the grand unified theory has gradually deepened, and he has some clues about the implementation plan of anti-gravity. The shuttle's door suddenly opened, revealing the spacious interior. Liu Yongchang shook his head, retracted his free and divergent thoughts, and stepped into the shuttle. Under Zero's control, the shuttle smoothly drove out of the slowly opening port gate and headed towards the blue planet not far away. Awakening ritual. As the name suggests, it is a ritual to awaken all billions of humans who are still in hibernation. The shuttle landed smoothly on a vast and flat square, the central square of human civilization. The central plaza is located in the equatorial region of Kepler 452b. In the center of the square is a square monument with a height of 10,000 meters, the monument to the pioneers of human civilization. The venue for this awakening ceremony is arranged in the area below the monument. It can also be regarded as a prayer for the pioneers of civilization who have paid silently. The shuttle door slowly opened, and Liu Yongchang, dressed in formal attire, stepped out. The breeze on Kepler 452b blew across his face and slightly ruffled his hair. The cheers coming from not far away attracted Liu Yongchang's eyes. He is a researcher at the Academy of Sciences. Looking at those familiar faces, Liu Yongchang suddenly felt extremely excited in his originally calm heart. He took a deep breath to calm down his inner emotions, then calmly raised his right hand and gestured to them. He was responded to with even more enthusiastic cheers. There were not many people participating in the awakening ceremony. Apart from the Academy of Sciences and members of the Parliament, there were only a group of round black and white dumplings left. Like humans, the black and white groups of Taladin who came as envoys widened their eyes curiously and looked at the scene on the stage. Under everyone's gaze, Liu Yongchang walked slowly towards his seat. Next to that seat sat an old man with grey hair. "Yongchang, you're here, Han," Kaiming said with a gentle smile. Liu Yongchang's eyes were slightly dazed. At that moment, he seemed to have seen the gentle smile that the old council president showed to him thousands of years ago. "Yes, here we come," Liu Yongchang said in a dry voice. "You're not late, are you?" Of course not," The smile on Han Kaiming's face became gentler. For you, you are never late. Clang, along. With a melodious bell ringing from all around, the originally clear sky suddenly dimmed, as if it was covered by something. That's a giant color-changing curtain that unfolds from a synchronous orbit. Turning black, it firmly blocks the blazing light from the main star. The awakening ceremony begins in the pitch black darkness. The 10,000-meter high monument to the pioneers of human civilization glowed with blue light. At the same time, the holographic image generating device set up on the giant screen began to work. The extremely large holographic projection, from blurry to clear, appeared directly in the dark sky, from the solar system to the Proxima galaxy, from the Gliese 555 star system to the Kepler 452 star system. Human civilization has experienced countless hardships and setbacks, accompanied by LV Yongchang's solemn voice coming from the surrounding speakers. The supergiant holographic images in the sky also began to change one by one. Helium flash crisis, Proxima battle, latter civilization battle, painting, death, both a civilization battle, Proxima tail cutting plan. The tragic battle images one after another were presented to everyone like a revolving lantern. In these crises and battles, countless people sacrificed themselves and paid the price of their lives for the continuation of human civilization. After the voice fell, a string of dense names were projected into the sky. After the storm, there will be a rainbow. All the sufferings that cannot defeat human civilization will eventually become the force that drives human civilization to progress. In the giant projection, the transformation scenes of the Gliese 555 star system and the Kepler 452 star system were reproduced at a very fast speed. Everyone, today's human civilization has already possessed basic self-protection capabilities. The era of catastrophes that lasted for 1,600 years has ended. Facing everyone's crystal eyes, LV Yongchang took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I declare, turn on all home ships, wake up, program, start now." As soon as the voice fell, the holographic projection in the sky dissipated instantly, and the giant color-changing curtain returned to its original transparent appearance. The light from the main star once again shone on Kepler 452b. LV Yongchang raised his head and looked at the cloudless sky. Earth and the outline of the planetary fortress under construction clearly came into his eyes. PS. Thanks to Shu Emozi for the 2 great certifications. Thanks to all the readers for their love. Chapter 714 Experimenting with Stars. The awakening ceremony came to an end. Lu Yongchang also returned to the Earth for safety reasons and to ensure the accuracy of experiments. Most of the laboratories are still placed on the Earth. He sat by the porthole of the office and turned to look out the window. Home ships docked one after another in the synchronous orbit of Kepler 452b. Small shuttles and space elevators operated at full power, sending batches of people who had awakened from hibernation to the ground. 0 planned everything in an orderly manner according to the awakening plan provided by the School of Sociology. The awakening procedure for hibernating personnel still follows the usual practice, and the order of awakening is determined based on the level of contribution. Considering that most hibernators have been sleeping for more than hundreds of years, some have been sleeping for thousands of years, there is a huge gap between the knowledge system they master and the current human civilization. The knowledge system of some hibernating people even stays in the era of second level or even first level civilization. This is inevitable. To this end, the Faculty of Sociology and the Parliament launched a universal basic education action on Kepler 452b. The first thing every hibernating person should do after waking up is to receive basic education ranging from 1 to 10 years. It is the same as the education method of the public education system. Both content and time are taught according to each person's choice. This seems to have become inevitable for the development of civilization. Not everyone is Lu Yongchang. Regarding the huge and complex technological system of human civilization today, almost no one can master it in all aspects. 99.99% of people are aware of these novel high-tech gadgets, but don't know why. But as long as 0.01% of people can stand out from it, it is enough. When the public education system begins to fully operate and the population expands rapidly, even if the probability of a genius appearing is only 0.0001%, it will still be a number that cannot be underestimated. With zero's help, everything seems to be in order, and there are no problems, even in providing the huge resources needed for the lives of billions of people. Although most of the basic work is completed by a large amount of weak artificial intelligence, the additional aggregation and processing tasks still occupy a lot of computing power. Normally, this computing power would be nothing to 0. But now we are in the stage of rapid expansion of human civilization. Not to mention the Academy of Sciences, even the Parliament is eager to split the computing power into two parts. Countless interstellar probes are expanding outward like locusts, exploring star systems one after another around the Kepler 452 star system. Today, the explored range of human civilization, or the territory of civilization, has reached a radius of 24 light years. A large number of mining tasks and construction tasks have already filled the construction schedule for the next hundreds of years. There are only two options to alleviate this embarrassing situation. 1. Once again, the performance of the optical quantum computer is squeezed, allowing zero's computing power to be greatly improved. The difficulty is not small. At least, the optical quantum computing laboratory led by Yongchang has not yet come up with a feasible plan. 2. Naturally, it absorbs a large number of affiliated civilizations. Even if it is a second-level civilization, its individuals can complete many tasks that weak artificial intelligence cannot complete after being trained and educated. This can reduce the computing power burden of zero on a large scale. But this is not easy. At least within a radius of 24 light years, the detector has not yet found a civilization with advanced intelligence. Of course, relying on the population of human civilization itself can also alleviate this problem to a certain extent. But this takes a lot of time. Today's human civilization, whether in terms of population size or average level of education, is like an incomplete civilization with an extremely developed brain, but extremely uncoordinated limbs. Drop. A crisp reminder sounded in the office, interrupting Yongchang's theoretical improvement of the material disintegration field. Professor, academician Mao Zengzi is waiting for you at the door. Zero's electronically synthesized voice reminded softly. Mao Zengzi. Yongchang frowned. Why did he come to me? Is it related to Nus civilization? He murmured in a low voice, and at the same time, raised his hand and gently rubbed the center of his brow. That was a little painful from overthinking. Let him come in. Aha. As soon as he finished speaking, the closed office door suddenly opened. Professor. What a great discovery. What a great discovery. As the door opened, Mao Zengzi's loud and exciting voice came from outside the door, scaring Yongchang to tremble violently. What? Big discovery. Looking at Mao Zengzi, who hurried to his desk, Yongchang frowned again and looked at him with a somewhat unkind look. Although the stellar core reaction interference device has been completed, controlling the nuclear reaction inside the star requires a large amount of computing resources are needed to cooperate. Zero's computing power is currently too tight. I'm afraid we have to put the matter of Nus civilization on hold. No, no, no. Mao Zengzi gasped and waved his hands repeatedly. Professor, you can't let it go. You absolutely can't let it go. The Italian network of Nus civilization might be able to help us solve our current big problem. Yongchang was stunned, subconsciously stood up from the chair with his hands on his hands, raised his voice and asked, what did you say? Mao Zengzi took a few hard breaths to calm down his breathing. Professor, you also know that individuals of the Nus civilization can transfer memory and knowledge through the mind network. Yes. Yongchang frowned slightly, and a vague idea came to his mind. You mean, yes, Mao Zengzi's eyes were full of excitement. He supported his hands on Yongchang's desk and said loudly, when Lucy Yuan was studying the previous batch of data, he accidentally discovered the corresponding signals of bioelectricity and quantum consciousness about memory transmission. I said that the boy's a material for biology. Ha ha ha. It turned out to be right. Yongchang's eyes also revealed a little excitement. If we can master memory transmission technology, then Human civilization can make up for its current shortcomings as soon as possible. The harm caused by long-term hibernation will also disappear completely. The most important thing is, Zero can release a lot of idle computing power. Yes. Mao Zedong slapped his thigh with his big hand. Professor, tell me about the NUS civilization tomorrow. No, tell the megastructure engineering department today. Let Xi set off immediately and go to the HIP 22580 star system. Professor, the megastructure engineering department is currently conducting the second power-on test. Zero's electronic synthesized voice came from the side, interrupting Lu Yongchang's words. Second power-on test? Lu Yongchang raised his eyebrows sharply. What the hell? With their petty test plan, what problems can they test out? Tell them to test the stars directly. Send a fleet to escort. Set off immediately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 715 Xi. Time flies. Earth calendar year 3637. A moon-sized giant device, escorted by a small fleet, broke away from curvature navigation and arrived near the HIP 22580 star system. Stellar core reaction interference device, codenamed Xi. I have to say that the big cake drawn by academician Mao Zedong is delicious enough. So delicious that the Academy of Sciences has raised the importance of NUS civilization to the second priority. Xi slowly came to the vicinity of a star in the HIP 22580 star system. The moon-sized Xi giant device is as inconspicuous as a small sesame seed in front of the huge star, but this small sesame seed has the ability to make the star change dramatically. In the Kepler 452 star system 23 light years away, according to LV Yongchang's order, Zero temporarily stopped all kinds of insignificant calculations and concentrated all these miscellaneous computing power on Xi. Under Zero's remote control, the spherical structure of Xi slowly cracked, revealing the complex grand unified field generating device inside. As the power of the antimatter engine continued to increase, the strength of the grand unified field also continued to increase. A little insignificant ripple gradually appeared on the surface of the star. The next moment, a thick purple laser shot out from the inside of Xi and rushed straight to the star not far away. The purple laser beam containing huge energy instantly sank into the surface of the star and drilled into the core of the star. For the star, this energy is nothing but under the precise control of the grand unified field, it is like a domino, triggering a series of subtle and exquisite chain reactions. The whole process lasted for about several months. Finally, quantitative change caused qualitative change. The fusion reaction inside the star began to intensify, and powerful gamma rays began to be released. Boom. The originally calm star burst out with unprecedented power at this moment. It was like sneezing, spraying a powerful gamma ray around, like a surging tide. This gamma ray surged towards the entire star system. It surged across the planets with an unstoppable momentum. If there is still life on these stars, then, if nothing unexpected happens, these lives will die in this star crisis just like the solar system at that time. But this is the living environment that NUS civilization dreams of. When all the test data reach the standard, the seeds and small individuals of NUS civilization were transported to HIP 22580 F. At the same time, the huge network core was also placed in a suitable position to ensure that it could enjoy the maximum gamma rays. As for the companion race of NUS civilization, the lost giant worm, it was naturally put into this planet full of decay. The lost giant worm that has undergone a certain genetic modification project can decompose and digest the organic matter left by the previous generation of civilization as quickly as possible, and provide the NUS civilization with necessary nutrients. The seeds of life once again sprouted on HIP 22580 F. The periphery of the HIP 22580 star system. After years of travel, a fleet finally arrived at its destination. Your Majesty, Lizardman crew member crawled at the feet of Emperor Eugene and said, "The fleet is about to enter the target star system, and it is estimated that it will take about 60 years to complete the supply of materials." Emperor Eugene was silent for a moment and nodded slowly. 60 years is not long. It is acceptable. 60 years later, the fleet will set sail and head for the starfield 500 light years away. It repeated the order it had already issued. Looking at the command center, which was silent and had no objection, it nodded with satisfaction. "Go. Get everyone moving. We don't have much time." "Yes." The crew member bowed his head and responded, and quickly stood up and prepared to go to his job. A shrill alarm sounded suddenly. The flagship of the Eugene civilization also shook violently. "What's going on?" Emperor Eugene grabbed the armrest of the chair with his scaly claws and shouted, "Technicians, what happened?" The originally calm command center suddenly became chaotic. Class 1 contact alarm. Class 1 contact alarm, accompanied by the constantly echoing alarm. A shrill cry came from a distance. Emperor Eugene's heart sank suddenly. Class 1 contact alarm. This is the most serious alarm information in Eugene's civilization. Usually, it will only be triggered when it encounters an unidentified civilization face to face, and its own fleet is attacked. Another violent tremor came. Accompanied by a feeling of dizziness. The equivalent gravity in the command center gradually disappeared, and a strong sense of weightlessness instantly swept over Emperor Eugene's body. Attacked again. Emperor Eugene's heart sank suddenly. The comer is not friendly, but it did not panic too much. During its time as emperor, it has experienced countless more dangerous scenes. There were just 2 small scared attacks, and even the battleship's armor was not penetrated. There's no need to panic. It stabilizes its body as much as possible and stabilizes itself on the deck with the help of fixtures. The attack method has been determined. High energy laser beam attack. The flagship's surface armor was damaged by 12.67%. Another crew member reported the damage to the hull in a hurried tone. The main damaged parts are: the power system has no obvious impact, and the weapon system has no obvious impact. Where is the enemy? Emperor Eugene's orange vertical pupils shrank violently. He opened his sharp mouth full of sharp teeth and shouted loudly, "Locate the enemy's position immediately." Positioning successful. The enemy is directly above the fleet, 50 million kilometers away. The crew's voice drowned out the panic in the command center. The enemy ship image is being restored. Shrink the fleet. Emperor Eugene ordered loudly without any hesitation. Develop a defensive formation. Get ready to fight. As its voice fell, the huge Eugene fleet quickly took action. Countless interstellar wars have brought them rich combat experience. In a short period of time, the scattered fleets gathered together, with small battleships taking the lead, using their bodies to act as a shield for the central flagship. The power of the nuclear fusion reactor increased rapidly, and the magnetic field shield began to operate at full power. This war machine is adjusting its status as quickly as possible to cope with any subsequent attacks. Chapter 716. Isn't this a coincidence? Exclamation mark. When every crew member in the Eugene fleet was fully prepared for battle, the image data of the enemy ships gradually appeared on the large screen in the command center. When the picture became clear, the anxious atmosphere in the command center suddenly paused. In the originally noisy command center, for a while there was only the slight noise made by the operation of the equipment. Emperor Eugene's nose twitched rapidly, and he looked at the screen in front of him in horror. In the picture, a large-scale fleet did not appear as he expected. Not to mention the fleet, it didn't even see a single battleship in the picture. In the deep and dark universe, there is only one inconspicuous white dot. On a scale of 50 million kilometers, this white spot is not even as conspicuous as those infinitely distant stars. The lens quickly zoomed in, and the images in the screen continued to enlarge and become clearer in the end. What appeared in front of the Eugene fleet was a spherical silver-white aircraft. The size of the aircraft is not large compared with the starships of the Eugene civilization. It can even be described as pocket-sized. No, Emperor Eugene's orange vertical pupils had shrunk into a slender straight line. At the same time, it opened its sharp mouth full of fine teeth and let out a severely altered howl. "This is impossible." A Strong chill instantly appeared on its back, and the fine scales on its body stood up. This scene was so terrifying that it didn't dare to imagine the hidden information behind it. The next moment, a purple light appeared in the lens and the flames of the explosion appeared. It was a small warship located at the outermost edge of the defensive formation point. Although the style is a bit old and the performance of the battleship is also a bit outdated. As the core strength of the Eugene civilization, it can also be regarded as the best among the third-level battleships, but this outstanding third-level battleship turned into brilliant fireworks the moment it was attacked. The person who issued this attack was actually a small detector. This huge sense of contrast immediately overwhelmed Emperor Eugene and left him breathless. The information hidden behind it is displayed in front of it like a bright card. There is a high probability that this detector comes from that level 5 civilization that we have never met before. The piercing alarm sounded again. The communication request from the other party was detected. A crew member reported in a hoarse voice. The message comes with a dictionary. Take it. Emperor Eugene stretched out his hand, holding on to the seat next to him, and murmured in a low voice with his eyes blank. In zero gravity space, its movements actually have no real effect point, but the cold touch from the heart of the claw still gave it some strength to maintain its image. Third warning. This star system belongs to the human civilization of the Milky Way. Any entry into the country without permission will be regarded as aggression by human civilization and will be regarded as a declaration of war against human civilization by default. Looking at the lines of text that appeared quickly on the screen, Emperor Eugene suddenly felt a strong bitterness rising from his throat. Third warning. Thinking of the 3 attacks on Eugene's fleet, it is not difficult to imagine that the extremely powerful laser beam with purple light was the opponent's warning method. That's just the other party's warning method. The image of the battleship exploding appeared in its mind again. It took a deep breath and entered a line of information with trembling fingers. Dear human civilization, we have no intention of offending your territory. We will leave immediately. Please, be noble. Before the response message appeared, Emperor Eugene screamed, escape, run, away. The other party only has one detector. All warships, spread out their formations and escape. 23 light years away. Inside the Kepler 452 star system. A piercing alarm suddenly sounded in the quiet office, waking up Yongchang, who was resting on the sofa. Professor, an unknown civilization was discovered near the HIP 22580 star system. Before Yongchang could fully wake up, Ling's urgent voice rang in his ears. Preliminary judgment shows that the opponent is a level 3 wandering civilization. Yongchang suddenly opened his somewhat hazy eyes, raised his hands, and rubbed his face vigorously. Report the specific situation, he ordered in a deep voice. Inform Zaozuji and prepare for battle. As he finished speaking, a blue holographic projection appeared in front of him. In the projection, the perspective picture from the interstellar probe is presented. Yongchang raised his eyebrows, with a bit of confusion in his eyes. How do you feel about the style of this fleet? A bit familiar, compared with the Eugene civilization we met earlier. The quality of this fleet is obviously much better, but the warship models are still a bit mixed. Is this also a civilization of star thieves? Yongchang muttered to himself in surprise. Are there so many star thieves in this starfield? It's really unfair, Professor. The other party responded to our message. Zero interrupted Yongchang's soliloquy. The dictionary comparison has been completed, and it is determined that the other party is the Eugene civilization. Oh. Yongchang's eyes suddenly filled with interest. Isn't this a coincidence? We meet again. What did they say? Yongchang asked casually as he got up from the sofa and took a sip of warm water from his cup. The information from Eugene's civilization quickly appeared in front of Yongchang. Leave. A faint smile appeared in Yongchang's eyes. What a joke. After so long, we finally caught a level 3 civilization. Can you let you run away? Before the voice fell, another holographic image appeared on the side of Yongchang. Professor Zhao Ziji's voice came from the loudspeaker. Eugene civilization was found near HIP 22580. We catch them all without missing a single one. Yongchang interrupted Zhao Zij's words. There are still many escort fleets near HIP 22580 that have not returned. You command this battle remotely. The human union is in great need of labor now. Try not to cause too many casualties. Okay. Zhao Ziji nodded and responded decisively. Don't worry, I will complete the task. The holographic communication on the side was automatically cut off. Holding the water cup, LV Yongchang sat back in his office chair, looking at the holographic image moving with him with interest. Disperse the formation and escape. He saw the intention of Eugene's fleet at a glance. This commander is quite decisive, but can they escape? LV Yongchang muttered to himself in a low voice while raising his hand and swiping it in the air, opening another holographic image. 0. Turn over all the nearby detectors and keep an eye on these warships. Chapter 717. This is a clearly marked contribution value. HIP 22580 star system point with the transmission of tachyon information. The originally peaceful star system instantly became lively. The Golden Crow battleships and Zuanwu frigates that were originally responsible for escort missions and were doing nothing at this time quickly became active. As for the atmosphere inside the battleship, not to mention its 053C Golden Crow Battleship Operations Center. After receiving the order from Kepler 452, this group of crew members who had been idle for more than a year completed the pre-war preparations as quickly as possible and returned to their original posts. I originally thought this escort mission would be boring. Yeah. I never expected that the mission is almost over and we can encounter such a good show. Hey. I'm almost out of sight these days. I finally have some tricks up my sleeve. How much contribution can you make from this operation? Contribution value? I'm not sure. It should be calculated based on the number of captured battleships, right? Just as the crew members were discussing, a loud shout came from the gate of the combat center. Let the labor and management be quiet. The noisy combat center fell silent instantly. Fan. Hello Captain Fan. A crew member approaching the gate cautiously saluted the visitor. Yes. Fan Pingping nodded expressionlessly, then quickened his pace and walked towards his command position point. After sitting in his seat, Fan Ping glanced around the combat center. After making sure that everyone was looking at him, he cleared his throat and said in a deep voice, the mission of this operation is very simple. Capture all the Eugene battleships without causing widespread casualties. I can't say anything ugly anymore. If someone fires blindly and injures and maims those Eugene people, it will affect the final contribution value assessment. You should know the consequences, Captain. Don't worry. We are measured. Not far away. A crew member shouted loudly. Hurry up and give the combat order. What's the hurry? Fan Ping glared at the crew member who was speaking. I've been studying the ancient culture of the People's League recently. There is an old saying that goes well, haste makes waste, but Captain 054C has left the port. Fan Ping subconsciously looked at the holographic projection on one side. The Golden Crow battleship beside him has slowly left the port. Looking at the light signal sent by the friendly forces, Fan Ping's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. His grandma saw his hey-oh. He's trying to get away with labor again, isn't he? Fan Ping's face turned red. He slapped the table in front of him hard and shouted loudly, let's go. Pull up the antimatter engine power. I want this boy Shawi's hey-oh to know that he can't compare to me when he was in the academy, and he won't be able to compare to me after leaving the academy. Boom. The moment the order was issued, the tail of the 053C Golden Crow battleship instantly sprayed out extremely strong gamma rays, driven by the antimatter engine. 053C left the port like a wild horse, rushing towards the deep universe ahead. As for Fan Ping, looking at the escaping Eugene battleship in the holographic projection, the corners of his mouth rose slightly. These are all great military achievements. That's surreal. Clearly priced contribution. Eugene fleet. Emperor Eugene stood firmly on the deck, relying on the stabilizing device, looking solemnly at the big screen in front of him. I don't know how human civilization will react, it thought worriedly. Have you planned your escape route? It whispered, "Find the nearest star system first. The battleship's energy reserves are running low, and it cannot support a long-term voyage, already planned." The crew member beside him quickly called up a star map and pointed out the navigation target for it. Okay. It checked it and nodded with satisfaction after confirming that there was no problem. "Is that detector still working? There is no abnormal behavior." The crew member responded quickly, "Still parked in place. The fleet's dispersed escape has begun." A total of 9,639 warships went to 31 nearby star systems from different directions and completed the rendezvous mission with 100 light years away. You sure that the detector didn't respond? Emperor Eugene was a little worried and confirmed again. "Sure." The crew member responded with a positive tone while calling up the video data point, seeing that the silver white ball still stayed in place stupidly. Emperor Eugene suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, and the anxiety and panic in his eyes also faded a little. That's right. Under normal circumstances, even if it invades the territory of other civilizations, the other party will not act excessively. If the Eugene fleet actively avoids it, Eugene civilization has experience in this area, not to mention that the opponent is still a powerful 5th level civilization, and there is no reason to target their small 3rd level civilization. Thinking of this, Emperor Eugene's expression became more relaxed. You can only be proud for 3 seconds, along with a violent tremor. The piercing alarm sounded again in the command center. "The flagship is under attack. The flagship is under attack. The attack type determination is completed. It is a high energy laser beam attack. The damage determination of the flagship has been completed, and 14.71% of the surface armor has been damaged." This familiar scene made Emperor Eugene gasp sharply, and his vertical pupils turned into a slender straight line again. PTSD belongs to yes. Damn it. Didn't you say that the detector didn't move? It turned around suddenly and slapped the sailor who had just reported the situation to it on the head with a paw. "Your Majesty the Emperor, this is not the original detector." A crew member next to him opened his mouth full of fine teeth and shouted in a horrified voice, "Yes, it's another detector. They are coming." Emperor Eugene trembled slightly and turned to look at the big screen in front of him again. On the screen, 3 silver white spherical detectors were arranged in a Z-shaped pattern, quietly staying in the direction of the Eugene flagship. Warn: this star system belongs to the human civilization of the Milky Way. Any entry into the country without permission will be regarded as aggression by human civilization and will be regarded as a declaration of war against human civilization by default. Seeing the same words, Emperor Eugene felt his eyes darken. It is ready to leave, but is it still considered an act of aggression? Why do you feel that this human civilization is more like the Star Pirate civilization than them? Please wait patiently. We will send relevant personnel to contact you immediately. Fuck you. Waiting. Where you are. Do you really think they are that stupid? Taladan civilization. Emperor Eugene finally couldn't hold it any longer and yelled, "Hit. Beat these 3 detectors." Chapter 718. The slap in the face always comes so quickly. For the Eugene civilization with a strict hierarchy, the order from the Emperor is the highest order that cannot be violated at any time point. Even though all the Eugene people are filled with deep fear, they still have to follow their muscle instincts and start adjusting the parameters of various weapons. The warships that follow the Eugene flagship are the elites of the Eugene civilization. Therefore, the various tedious preparations before the launch did not take much time. Looking at the crosses firmly locked on the target on the screen, a trace of fierceness flashed in Emperor Eugene's eyes. "Attack." It issued the final attack order. It just doesn't believe it. What can a level 5 civilization do? Can 3 small detectors block the escape of the Eugene fleet? In an instant. High energy laser cannons, electromagnetic cannons, plasma cannons, all weapons that the Eugene civilization can use were fired. The attack has been launched. But it will take some time for the attack to take effect. Emperor Eugene held his breath and stared at the screen in front of him. Boom. For a level 3 civilization, the fastest weapon is naturally a high energy laser beam that flies at the speed of light point a bright beam of light, spanning tens of millions of kilometers, accurately hit the vicinity of 3 spherical detectors. Something magical happened. Point under the gaze of all the Eugene people. The trajectory of the high energy laser beam suddenly deviated slightly. This laser beam deviated from the predetermined attack area and hit the side armor of the spherical detector. Obliquely pointed hit, but not completely. Point a not so obvious burn mark appeared on the side armor. The successful hit of the first laser beam was like the clarion call for the Eugene civilization to counterattack. Before the Eugene people could react, the dense high energy laser beams had completely submerged the 3 lonely detectors. What happened just now, Emperor? Eugene's vertical pupils trembled slightly, and he murmured in a low voice. The scene of the inexplicable deflection of the first high-energy laser beam was still replayed in his mind, continuously stimulating his fragile nerves. It's gravity. A voice sounded in the command center, attracting the attention of Emperor Eugene. Your Majesty, our instruments have observed a strong gravitational lens effect. A lizard man explained to it in a respectful tone. The other party's detector used gravity to create a shield. Obviously, the strength of gravity is not enough to completely deflect the laser beam we sent, so the laser beam still hit the detector. Your Majesty, this is our chance. As the aftermath of the high-energy laser beam attack dissipated, the image on the screen became clear again. The 3 silver-white detectors, like an unshakable monument, quietly floated in front of the fleet, silently telling Eugene's civilization a fatal message. This road is blocked. They did not move, and even the distance between the 3 did not change. This is the greatest contempt from a high level civilization. Pull the camera closer. Emperor Eugene's face flushed, and his howling voice was full of horror. How could there be no damage? The picture on the screen changed rapidly. It also successfully saw the scene in its mind. The originally smooth and flawless silver-white detector surface had some laser burn marks. The marks were not obvious, and could even be considered a superficial injury. This greatly boosted the morale of the Eugene civilization. They can cause damage to the detector, but the subsequent scene was like a basin of cold water, directly extinguishing the courage that the Eugene people had finally mustered. These scars were slowly disappearing under the gaze of everyone. In a few seconds, the surface of the silver-white spherical detector returned to its previous smoothness. There was a dead silence in the command center of the Eugene flagship. After the laser, there were densely packed kinetic and energy weapons. The flames of the electromagnetic gun and plasma gun explosions once again flooded the entire lens like the laser weapons. These attacks successfully hit the detector, or in other words, they successfully reached the vicinity of the detector. But this time, the original joyful atmosphere in the command center of the Eugene flagship was gone. Emperor Eugene has silently closed his eyes, trying to hide the despair in his eyes. The result of the attack is foreseeable. Only laser weapons can barely penetrate the strength of gravitational shield. As for other weapons, I'm afraid they can't even touch each other. The flames of the explosion slowly dissipated, and Emperor Eugene opened his eyes, although he had made full mental preparations. A shudder still rose from his heart when he saw the image on the screen. The 3 detectors, as before, quietly declared their power to the Eugene civilization. There is new communication information. The hoarse roar attracted everyone's attention. Lines of text quickly appeared on the screen in front. Warning. Your actions have constituted a substantial act of aggression. Human civilization officially declares war on the Eugene civilization. The warships of human civilization are about to arrive at the battlefield. Please stop your unnecessary struggle and resistance immediately, and strive for leniency. Repeat, the warships of human civilization are about to arrive at the battlefield. Emperor Eugene. Oh, it's over. Facing everyone's gaze, the corners of its eyes twitched violently a few times, and it shouted again. Why are you all standing there, waiting to die? Continue to attack with laser cannons. Do you really believe that the warships are about to arrive at the battlefield? Emperor Eugene looked extremely gloomy. How long has it been since we were discovered? How can it be so fast? The Slap in the face always comes so quickly. Point. A wave of obscure and powerful space-time fluctuations came from not far away. Point. Of course, the Eugene civilization did not notice this fatal information, and they had no ability to detect the space-time fluctuations in the surrounding area. Point. But the ultra-high definition cameras on the warships brought them a terrifying message. Point. The shrill alarm sounded again. Point. On the screen of the command center, a huge warship suddenly appeared in the deep and dark empty universe and intercepted the direction of the Eugene fleet. Point. The battleship was huge. Point. Conservatively speaking, it was at least twice the size of the Eugene civilization flagship. Point. As the battleship appeared, powerful gamma ray radiation came, causing more alarms to sound. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, a trembling voice came from the side. Do we still want to attack? Chapter 719. Will you persuade them to surrender, Emperor? Eugene glanced at the crew member who asked this question with a confused expression. Hit your ass. The corner of its mouth twitched and said angrily, are you blind? Still fighting? Are you looking for death? The crew lowered their heads in silence, bearing the Emperor's wrath. Then, what should we do now, Emperor? Eugene fell silent for a moment. Point. For a long time. Point. It opened its pointed mouth slightly and squeezed out a word from the fine teeth. Wait. 053C. Golden Crow. Battleship. Point. Fan Ping looked at the image data returned by the detector with great interest. This Eugene civilization is quite courageous. With such a huge power gap, they dare to take action. The deputy captain next to him smiled and responded, Star pirates are civilized. It's strange that they are not brave, but, having said that, I feel like there is something wrong with this fleet. Old Fan, do you see it? The vice captain frowned slightly and said hesitantly, Fan. Ping looked a little solemn and nodded thoughtfully. It seems to be a standard battleship, not bad. The deputy captain's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands hard and said with some excitement, it's a standard battleship. That's where the problem lies. Normally, the Starthief civilization does not have standard battleships. At this point, both of them understood what the other meant. Point. Fan Ping stared directly at the battleship in the center of the defensive formation and swallowed hard. What do you mean? Did we hit a big fish? Big fish? It must be a big fish. As if he was afraid that others would hear, the vice captain subconsciously lowered his voice. Maybe this is the small flagship of a certain detachment of the Eugene fleet. We have to do it as soon as possible. This contribution value, TSK. Fan Ping's breathing quickened a little, and his eyes shone with greedy light. Point. At this time, in his eyes, what appeared in the holographic projection was not a fleet in a defensive state, but contributions flying all over the sky, and taken at will. Let's fight. The deputy captain's voice came again. Before anyone comes here, let's resolve the battle as quickly as possible and capture all these battleships. Fan Ping thought in silence for a while. You can't hit him directly. He slowly shook his head and said, our weapons are too powerful. What if there really is someone important? Fan Ping's mouth twitched slightly, and he said with a heartache on his face, I can't bear to pay such a heavy contribution. Then, what do you think we should do? Hearing this, the deputy captain also fell into a dilemma. Persuading to surrender. Will you persuade me to surrender? Me? Fan Ping shook his head and asked in confusion, why do you think I will persuade you to surrender? Will you? The vice captain spread his hands and shrugged. What a coincidence. I can't do it either. Who can persuade a decent person to surrender? Fan Ping, what should we do? The vice captain looked helplessly at the holographic image ahead. How about try it, Eugene? Flagship, Your Majesty the Emperor, a new communication request has been detected. A panicked voice sounded in the command center. The signal comes from that battleship. Connected. When he heard the news, Emperor Eugene subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. At least the other party didn't directly use weapons to blast it into rubbish. Point. After a short wait, the signal gradually stabilized, and a smooth big face appeared on the big screen. Point. Emperor Eugene shook his head subconsciously. Point. No scales. So ugly. Point. The big face on the screen also frowned subconsciously. Point. Lizard people. So disgusting. Point. A series of chirping sounds came from the speaker, and the translated text of Eugene also appeared on the screen. This is the territory of the Galactic Meta-Human Federation. Eugene civilization, what you have done has constituted. Please disarm all armed forces immediately and accept the disposal. Otherwise, your fleet will be attacked by human warships. Emperor Eugene's vertical pupils quickly dilated, and there was an angry look in his eyes. Disarmament. Ever since it was elected as the emperor of the Eugene civilization, it has never been asked like this. Just when it was about to say something, the scaleless creature in the picture stopped its scripted chanting and said something else. Of course, you can also choose to join the Galactic Meta-Human Federation. We can write off your previous offenses. Emperor Eugene, what the hell? After a brief moment of sluggishness, it finally reacted. Impossible. The free Eugene civilization will never become a subsidiary civilization of other civilizations. Never. Boom. The moment he finished speaking, a violent explosion of flames came from the side windows, illuminating the entire Dark Command Center. Taking action. Are you taking action now? Emperor Eugene just felt that his mind went blank. Shouldn't we discuss it again under normal circumstances? Why doesn't the opponent play according to the routine? Suddenly, it felt a little regretful. Did it refuse too decisively just now? Your Majesty. They destroyed a detector. A hoarse roar came from the side. Detector? Emperor Eugene looked at the crew member who was speaking in confusion. What detector? Our detector. No, it's their own detector. Emperor Eugene, perhaps. Seeing the anger rising in the Emperor's eyes, the crew hurriedly called up a video file. Look, just now the warship of human civilization fired a shell, and then, one of the detectors exploded. Emperor Eugene stared at the scene in front of him in a daze. That's right. From the video data alone, such a bizarre incident did happen just now. Since becoming emperor, it feels that its brain is not enough for the first time. What kind of operation is this? Clashing in front of the enemy. But to be honest, the power of this attack is indeed very strong. If he guessed correctly, it should be an antimatter weapon. If it hits the Eugene battleship, it shuddered violently. Before its brain could completely come to its senses, a gibberish sound came from the speaker again. To be honest, this is the least powerful weapon in our warship. You should have seen how much damage it can cause. Our human civilization is a race that advocates peace. We are unwilling to use such a powerful weapon against you. As long as you agree to join the Pan-Human Federation, the previous misunderstanding can be written off. Otherwise, Emperor Eugene looked at the text on the big screen expressionlessly. Advocate peace. You call this advocating peace? It calmed down and glanced at the silver-white detector that had long been reduced to ashes. On behalf of Eugene civilization, I join the Galactic Pan-Human Federation. Chapter 720. What? I have to pay for this thing. 053C, Golden Crow, battleship. The deputy captain's eyes widened, and he looked at Fan Ping next to him in disbelief. Fan, Captain. Fan, is this the plan? To persuade you to surrender? What's wrong? Is there a problem? Fan Ping shrugged and said matter-of-factly, isn't the effect pretty good? The vice captain frantically raised his hand and scratched his fluffy hair. No, it's not about the effect, right? Look. What you just did. Release the weapon lock restriction, and then fired an antimatter shell at the detector. Fan Ping nodded calmly, settling the battle with one shot. Very efficient. That's a friendly force. The vice captain continued scratching his hair. His hair was as unkempt as a chicken coop from the constant scratching. Of course I know they are friendly forces. Fan Ping glanced at the vice captain unhappily. Didn't I just say that our weapons are too powerful and one shot can probably destroy the entire Eugene battleship? How to calculate the loss contribution value? But you can't attack friendly forces. Perhaps because he felt that Fan Ping's words were reasonable, the deputy captain's tone became slightly weaker. The cost of this thing is very high. If nothing else happens, the vice captain thought for a moment and said in a positive tone, you should be compensated. Fan Ping's face turned green at a speed visible to the naked eye. What the hell do you want compensation for this thing? But no one has ever told me about this. The vice captain was silent for a while again and then said in a low voice, no one will attack their own detectors. Fan Ping, just look at it. The vice captain held back his smile, raised his hand and patted his shoulder gently. Everything has two sides. To a certain extent, you can be regarded as leaving your name in history. Maybe. There will be a few rules specifically related to you later. After all, behind every outrageous regulation, there is one or several more outrageous real cases. Listening to the vice captain's words, Fan Pingyuan's originally blue face even faintly showed bursts of black light. Is there anything so comforting? Forget it. Forget it, Fan. Ping slapped the deputy captain's claw off his shoulder angrily and turned his attention to the holographic image again. As long as its contribution is enough, the compensation will be paid. Boss, you're awesome. The vice captain gritted his teeth and gave Fan Ping a thumbs up. Fan Ping. As the two communicated, Eugene's civilized response slowly appeared in front of them. Fan Ping stared blankly at the white text and the holographic projection, with deep doubts in his eyes. He raised his hand, pointed at the lizard man standing upright and talking in the holographic projection, and said to the deputy captain with an extremely strange expression, "Is this guy so loud? It also represents the Eugene civilization. I accept its surrender on behalf of human civilization." Fan Ping couldn't help laughing. "I'm just the captain of a small team. It sounds like it's true." There was no smile on the deputy captain's face. He stared blankly at the holographic projection in front of him and looked at the picture in the projection again. The speaking lizard man stood in the center, with the crew surrounding him like stars over the moon. From the body movements, it can be vaguely seen that the surrounding lizard people respect the speaker. Wrong. The vice captain shuddered suddenly and lowered his voice to stop Fan Ping's laughter. "Something serious has happened. This guy doesn't seem to be the captain of the squadron." Fan Ping glanced at the holographic projection blankly. "You mean this isn't a big fish?" The moment the words were spoken, Fan Ping felt a throbbing pain in his heart. Contribution value. His contribution value is gone. You even have to pay high compensation. Vice captain, who taught you Chinese before? Wait, I understand. You mean, after seeing the fool-like look in the vice captain's eyes, Fan Ping's mind suddenly turned around. What kind of extraordinary identity does this guy have? As he spoke, he looked at the holographic image in front of him with bright eyes. "Move softly." The vice captain glared at Fan Ping. "Don't scare it. That's a vain contribution." Yes. Fan Ping clasped his hands together and apologized repeatedly. "It was my negligence." "What? Now? Find a reason to ask its identity." "Nonsense. If you delay it any longer, someone might come." Looking at the two scaleless creatures who were communicating in low voices on the screen, as well as the uncomfortable and strange eyes, a chill suddenly appeared in Emperor Eugene's back. "How does it feel? Shouldn't it surrender?" Thinking of Eugene's civilization's attitude towards prisoners, the chill behind Emperor Eugene grew deeper. Facing those eyes that seemed to be looking at the goods, it once again confirmed its plan. Pretend to surrender first to stabilize the opponent. Then find a chance to escape. Although the chance of success is slim, it is better than being blasted into cosmic dust by a cannon. Ahem. Just as it was thinking carefully, the scaleless creature in the screen spoke again. "Human civilization temporarily accepts your application to join. In order to show your sincerity, please immediately disarm all armed forces and open the shipboard computer license." Emperor Eugene, disarm all armed forces, open computer license. This is equivalent to handing everyone's life to the other party. As Emperor Eugene, it will never agree to such an excessive request. Just as it was about to refuse, it noticed a key message. "Temporarily accept." It slightly opened its mouth full of fine teeth and stared at the screen in front of it in confusion. "What does this mean?" The meaning is very simple. You are not currently a member civilization of the Pan-Human Federation. Human civilization will conduct a comprehensive assessment and review of Eugene civilization based on various information. You can only join the Galactic Pan-Human Federation after passing the review. I hope you can understand that we are taking the elite route and not all messy civilizations can join. Emperor Eugene, feeling offended. Although he felt extremely upset, he was not as strong as others, so he could only swallow the anger in his chest and asked kindly, "What if Eugene's civilization does not pass the review?" "Oh, it's very simple. According to the Pan-Human Federation Act, Eugene civilization has declared war on human civilization, so we will naturally warm tips. If you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 721 Perfect Workforce. Emperor Eugene suddenly widened his eyes, and his orange-yellow vertical pupils shrank into a straight line again. Wait, we disarm immediately. It only felt its brain throbbing with pain. How can we talk about this? The other party does not play by the rules at all. Remember to open the control permission of the shipboard computer. After leaving the last line of information, the communication link was cut off. Only Emperor Eugene stood there, gritting his teeth, and looking at the remaining fonts on the screen. Your Majesty, do we really have to hand over the control permission of the central computer? The crew members around him asked unwillingly. The central computer stores detailed information of all subfleet. Once the control is handed over, the consequences are unimaginable. Eugene civilization will completely become a subsidiary civilization of human civilization, and there will be no chance of turning over. The words of the crew made Emperor Eugene fall into silence. He was naturally clear about this truth point, but in his opinion, the future of Eugene's civilization cannot be compared with his personal safety. So, what for the Emperor's safety, they should sacrifice their lives? Emperor Eugene said as a matter of course, disarm and open control permissions. Don't let me repeat the order a second time. As he said that, he narrowed his eyes and scanned the crew around him with a cold gaze. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Yes, the crew who originally held an opposing opinion lowered their heads again. The inertia formed by long-term high-pressure rule is difficult to break, and they are also used to obeying the Emperor's orders, even if this order will send civilization to a dead end. 053C, Golden Crow battleship. Control permission has been successfully obtained. Reading relevant information. Civilization risk value determination. Soon after the communication was cut off, lines of exciting text messages began to appear in the holographic projection. Fan Ping exerted a little force with his right hand and subconsciously grasped the armrest of the chair. He looked at the holographic screen in front of him with expectation. What is the identity of the other party? How big a fish have they caught? The most important thing is how much contribution value they can get. All of this will lead to a conclusion. The preliminary analysis work has been completed. As a line of white text emerged, a large amount of information appeared in front of everyone like a waterfall. Oh my god. In a short moment, the Golden Crow battleship was instantly filled with the howling of ghosts and wolves from every crew member. We made it. We made it. Old Fan, we made it. Did you know? The deputy captain's face flushed, and he stretched out his hand and shook Fan Ping beside him vigorously. The Emperor. That turned out to be the Emperor of Eugene civilization. Speaking of which, this Emperor is so poor, with only a few frigates. As he said that, he curled his lips in annoyance. No. Fan Ping corrected. This should be just an abnormal state caused by the fleet's scattered escape. If it were normal times, maybe this Emperor, Fan Ping's voice suddenly paused. The next moment, his breathing suddenly became heavy. Old Fan. The deputy captain turned his head subconsciously to look at Fan Ping. Go on. What would happen if it were any other time? Fan Ping ignored the deputy captain's question and just stared at the holographic image in front of him with his eyes straight. Old Ding, you're right. We are really going to make it this time. As he said that, he suddenly stood up from his chair and pointed at the holographic projection in front of him. Look at this information. This is the detailed coordinates and information of all the subfleet of Eugene civilization. Did you hear that? All, including the Iron Fleet wandering dozens of light years away. Like the deputy captain, Fan Ping's face flushed red at this time, thinking of the countless contribution points that were about to be obtained. He even felt a little breathless compensation for damage to the detector. It's nothing in front of these contribution points. If he wasn't afraid of being punished, he would even want to fire another shot to celebrate. Quick, report the results of the battle quickly, because he was too excited. Fan Ping's voice was even a little hoarse. It has been automatically reported. A crew member responded with a red face. The headquarters asked us to escort them back to the Kepler 452 star system as soon as possible. 1 year later, the Kepler 452 star system once again welcomed a group of new faces. The Eugene people wearing life support devices under the care of a robot lined up in an orderly queue and walked towards the meeting area set up in the Earth hangar. Compared with the Taladan civilization, the treatment of the Eugene civilization is obviously several levels worse. The most basic point is that the environment of the meeting area is arranged according to the preferences of human civilization. The bright and open environment made many Eugene people feel uncomfortable. But who cares? Welcome to join the Pan-Human Federation. Lin Shuguang, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Human Federation, had a faint smile on his face and extended his right hand to Emperor Eugene, who was standing in the front. Emperor Eugene looked past Lin Shuguang and looked at a black and white panda standing on the side. Taladan. It suddenly widened its eyes the next moment. The cute panda man showed it a provocative smile. Looking at this combination, Emperor Eugene felt his eyes go dark. It's over. Yongchang, is it really okay to absorb the Eugene civilization? Fang Zhu's voice came from LV Yongchang's office. Although at present, the performance of these Eugene people is pretty good, but don't forget that the civilization risk value assessment result given by 0 is 46 to 49. This is a very dangerous value. I even doubt their intention to surrender. LV Yongchang did not reply, but just watched the conversation between Lin Shuguang and Emperor Eugene in the holographic projection with interest. Calm down. He waved his hand calmly. The sociology department has already made a series of plans. With zero surveillance, they can't make any waves. The biggest problem now is not here, but the work enthusiasm of these lizardmen. Fang Zhu frowned. What do you mean? Take a look. LV Yongchang raised his hand and called up a holographic report. This is the analysis result of the sociology department. At present, we have captured almost all the free Eugene fleets, and the total population of Eugene has reached 10 billion. The growth and reproduction efficiency of Eugene civilization is extremely high, which can be said to be a perfect labor force. That's why they have the custom of making cans. This problem is very serious. At least it is very serious within the Pan-Human Federation. There is another problem. They have no sense of belonging to the Pan-Human Federation, and they have never been accustomed to engaging in production and business activities. We can't bring out the potential value of this labor force at present. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 722. They also did this. Lu Yongchang's words immediately caused Fang Zhu to fall into silence. Affiliated civilizations that cannot play their due role, to a certain extent, might as well be destroyed. That's really a problem. Fang Zhu frowned slightly and asked in a low voice, I just looked at the data provided by the School of Sociology. Even the credit point exchange mechanism does not have a very good incentive effect on Eugene's civilization. On the way to the Kepler 452 star system, the credit redemption mechanism was trialed for a period of time. The plan that has great effects on the Taladan civilization has no appeal to the Eugene civilization. This group of lizardmen who are insecure have not even redeemed a single piece of technology. Not only that, they also did not apply for the credit point interest-free loan service. Lu Yongchang nodded and answered again. The School of Sociology also gave the answer to the specific reasons. On the one hand, it is a problem of civilized behavior caused by biological habits. Judging from the history of the Eugene civilization, even on their home planet, before they became an interstellar civilization, they still lived by plundering. This is a legacy of civilization's history. This kind of civilization that uses plunder as a means of development has a scientific and technological system that is not only messy, but also has serious problems of emissions. On the other hand, it's a matter of civilized institutions. The strict hierarchical system leaves more than 90% of Eugene people without a voice of their own. This can be seen from the credit point redemption mechanism. After Emperor Eugene's words, scientists from Eugene have never made any request to redeem technology. These two problems have been accumulating day after day. At this point, without the help of external forces, it is impossible for them to correct the direction of civilization development by their own strength. You mean? Fang Zhu looked at Lu Yongchang in surprise. Are you going to help them re-establish a complete civilization and technology system? Hearing this, Lu Yongchang was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Fang Zhu with extremely strange eyes. How is that possible? Do you think I'm doing charity? That's good. Fang Zhu raised his hand and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. The education work of human civilization itself already takes up a lot of computing resources. If there is another Eugene civilization, the scientific research work of the Academy of Sciences will be affected to a certain extent. Lu Yongchang pondered for a moment and slowly shook his head. Basic standardized education is still needed, and it won't waste much computing resources. You can think of them as artificial intelligence that's a little more flexible than one. After completing basic education, Zero's computing power can be further liberated. Of course, these must be based on the premise that Eugene civilization changes the status quo. What are you going to do? Fang Zhu's expression quickly became serious. He subconsciously turned his head and looked around. He and Lu Yongchang were the only two people in the office. He suddenly had a bad feeling. According to usual practice, there is a high probability that this matter will fall on him again. This has to go back to the system of Eugene's civilization, Lu Yongchang said with a smile. Although this feudal system has had an extremely bad impact on the development of civilization, for us, it is actually very good. As long as the problem of Emperor Eugene is solved, the School of Sociology can transform Eugene's civilization into the screw of the Pan-Human Federation as quickly as possible. As he spoke, a holographic image unfolded automatically. There is a green low priority prompt message. So, what should I do? Fang Zhu looked bitter and asked directly. Lu Yongchang suddenly stopped clicking on the holographic image and raised his head in surprise to look at Fang Zhu at the desk. What? Fang Zhu looked confused. Aren't you telling me this to give me a new mission? Lu Yongchang suddenly looked at Fang Zhu in surprise with a hint of guilt. The children have been squeezed into stupidity. I just wanted to ask if you have any reliable solution. Speaking, Lu Yongchang sighed helplessly. At the moment, when Fang Zhu gradually became red hot, he once again turned his attention to the prompt information in the holographic image. Mao Zengzi sent another recent research result. Since the transformation of the HIP 22580 star system was completed, NUS civilization lived normally on HIP 22580F, and the Italian network gradually matured. The biological laboratory has continued to make gratifying progress one after another. According to the report of academician Mao Zengzi, the biological laboratory has made considerable progress in its research on Italian net. The conversion model between bioelectric signals and quantum consciousness has also been improved a lot. Looking at the information in the holographic projection, Lu Yongchang raised his eyebrows slightly. At that moment, a good idea seemed to flash through his mind. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and used his quantum brain to pursue the precious flash of inspiration. If we can directly modify and control the thinking of Eugene civilization, Lu Yongchang murmured in a low voice, maybe this is the best plan. Fang Zhu's eyes widened, and he subconsciously took a step back. A thin layer of cold sweat broke out on his back. As the second in command of the Human Union Academy of Sciences, he immediately realized the significance of this technology. This is an extremely dangerous technology. Yongchang. Fang Zhu swallowed hard, his voice trembling. Is this technology really possible? Faced with Fang Zhu's inquiry, Lu Yongchang did not respond immediately, but silently stared at the data in the holographic image. For a long time. He exhaled lightly and said in a very vague tone, who knows, in theory, with the help of bioelectric current, it is completely possible to implant a false memory deep in the consciousness of intelligent creatures, just like the memory inheritance of NUS civilization I. think this difficulty is even much lower than memory inheritance. After all, we only need to implant a very short memory. Speaking of this, Yongchang turned his head to look at the porthole on the side and said with a blurred look, "They may do the same." An inexplicable chill rose behind Fang Zhu. "They? Who are they?" Yongchang turned his head and looked at Fang Zhu's eyes meaningfully. "Sweeper." When Fang Zhu heard these three syllables, he subconsciously held his breath. Remember, the both a civilization. They have a fanatical belief in the sweeper civilization. I don't think a normal level 5 civilization would be so ignorant. Yongchang said to himself, at present, it seems that the sweepers are very likely to have mastered this technology. That is why they can develop subordinate civilizations unscrupulously. Chapter 723, Sub-Dangerous Technology. The moment the words fell, Yongchang felt a slight dizziness coming from the depths of his consciousness. The dizziness was not strong and lasted for a short time point, but the information behind it was something he could not ignore. Without any hesitation, he leaned back on the chair and closed his eyes. His eyelids firmly covered the faint orange-yellow light in his eyes. Yongchang, Fang Zhu looked at Yongchang's abnormal action with a confused look on his face. "You are a..." Dull response followed. "Let me think about it." His consciousness sank quickly and came to the familiar yet unfamiliar technology tree space. A dazzling orange-yellow light shone through the mottled background of the technology tree. On the side of the white technology tree, a cursor with an orange-yellow background appeared. Thought stamp. Every change was filled with a strong warning. Yongchang's heart sank slightly. He had the honor of seeing this mode of the technology tree once. Unlike this time, the technology tree space turned directly blood red. Cloning technology. According to the standards of the technology tree, it is a real dangerous technology. Thought stamp. Yongchang stared at the orange-yellow cursor and murmured in a low voice. As the name suggests, this is the technology he just envisioned. Implant a false memory fragment in the consciousness of an intelligent creature, so as to achieve control over the thinking of the intelligent creature. Is this also a dangerous technology? He whispered to himself and focused on the orange-yellow cursor. Just like the cloning technology at the beginning, the development history of several civilizations was clearly presented in his mind like a movie. His eyes gradually became complicated. More than 10 minutes later, under Fang Zhu's gaze, Yongchang opened his eyes with a complicated face and exhaled a long breath of turbid air. It was slightly different from what he expected. Thought stamp is not a dangerous technology. If we have to classify it, Yongchang prefers to call it sub-dangerous technology. The difference between the two is also very simple. Dangerous technology, for a single civilization, has no possibility to solve the negative impact it brings. The civilization will eventually perish under its influence. Sub-dangerous technology will also lead to the demise of civilization, but that is only a high probability event. This means that there are always a few gifted civilizations that can solve the negative images brought by thought stamp and rely on it to achieve rapid development of civilization. Risks and benefits are always relative. The high risks contained in thought stamp technology will inevitably bring high benefits to civilization. Just like the sweeper civilization, if it really relies on thought stamp to control the subordinate civilization. Yongchang. Fang Zhu stared at Yongchang's changing expression and said carefully, "The potential risk of this technology is very high." Yongchang nodded silently. "I know. Controlling the thinking of intelligent creatures must be risky. It may even lead to the destruction of civilization." Fang Zhu hesitated. "Then he wanted to persuade Yongchang to give up this technology. We have to study it." Yongchang did not give him this opportunity. Although the risk is high, human civilization needs this technology. It will bring a new driving force for the development of human civilization. It is enough to drive human civilization to expand rapidly to level 6 or even level 7 civilization. As for the risk, the sweeper civilization can master this technology safely, so we can do it too. Fang Zhu suddenly showed a bitter smile on his face. He guessed that this result would occur from the first step out of the Earth. Human civilization, led by Yongchang, has been betting on that illusory vitality point level 5 civilization. It seems very powerful point, but Fang Zhu, who had seen the painting and sweeper civilizations, did not think that human civilization could rest easy today point. Therefore, although he was emotionally opposed to this proposal, he still supported LV Yongchang's decision rationally. I'll go to the biological laboratory right away. LV Yongchang stood up from his office chair, took off a loose white research coat beside him, and put it on. The management of the Academy of Sciences will be temporarily handed over to you. You should be very experienced in this area, so I won't say much nonsense. Okay, Fang Zhu responded in a brief tone. Earth, the first biological laboratory of the Human Union point. The closed door suddenly opened, attracting the attention of many scientific researchers. Professor Lu, hello. Chief Lu shouts. With strong surprise came one after another. LV Yongchang smiled and nodded to everyone, and asked directly, where is Academician Mao? Professor, Academician Mao is studying the Yuan data just sent back. Some familiar voices came from the side. I remember you. You are Lu Xian. LV Yongchang's smile became more intense. Mao Zengzi mentioned you to me. You did a good job. Lu Xian's face turned slightly red. After receiving Lu Yongchang's praise, he raised his hand, gently touched the tip of his nose, and said a little embarrassedly, it's all thanks to the cultivation of Academician Mao. LV Yongchang looked at Lu Xian with interest and joked, your nose-touching action is not much different from Mao Zengzi's. Have you learned it so thoroughly? As soon as the voice fell, a suppressed laugh came from the surroundings. Seeing Lu Xian's face getting redder and redder, Lu Yongchang laughed and waved his hands. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Take me to find Mao Zengzi. I have a big research project here. Hearing this, Lu Xian's eyes suddenly lit up, and the shyness on his face instantly dissipated a lot. Really, Professor, please follow me. Half an hour later, Mao Zengzi frowned, tapped the experimental table in front of him with his fingers, and unconsciously made a sound of TSK point. Obviously, the request made by Lu Yongchang caused him great trouble. Is it very difficult? LV Yongchang's puzzled voice came from the side. Professor Mao Zengzi smiled bitterly and shook his head. This difficulty cannot be described with just one word. I understand what you mean by implanting fragmentary memories to influence people's thinking patterns. In theory, this is indeed feasible, but in practice, I'm afraid it's not that simple. Chapter 724 Emotional Memory Input Experiment. Why? LV Yongchang cast a puzzled look at Mao Zengzi. Mao Zengzi thought for a while, organized his words and said, Professor, the biological laboratory has preliminarily analyzed the memory transmission mechanism of NUS civilization. During the research during this period, we can even use bioelectric signals to generate some memory information in individuals of NUS civilization. I know. Lu Yongchang nodded and said, it is because of this breakthrough research result that I thought of the thought stamp technology. Hearing this, Mao Zengzi couldn't help but smiled bitterly and shook his head. Professor, this achievement is nothing. If this achievement is regarded as the first step, then the complete memory implantation technology will be at least 100 steps later. As for the thought stamp technology you described that can change the beliefs of intelligent creatures, it will probably be 300 steps later. Looking at LV Yongchang's unbelieving eyes, Mao Zengzi explained again, Professor, the memory information we implanted in the individuals of NUS civilization is just the simplest emotional fluctuations and does not contain any valid information. For example, joy, sadness. Moreover, this achievement is based on the special structure of NUS civilization itself. If there is no intention network, the difficulty of realizing this operation may increase several times. In addition, Mao Zengzi hesitated and said, faith is an extremely complex thing, and it cannot be changed by simply implanting memory. You can understand it as a subconscious, composed of countless fragmented memory fragments. How should I explain it to you? Mao Zengzi raised his hand and knocked on his head in distress. For example, I input a false memory into you through technical means. The Memory content is very simple. You ate a piece of bread after getting up in the morning. If you master the memory transmission technology, this operation is not difficult to complete. But if you want to make you take getting up in the morning and eating a piece of bread as your belief, I'm afraid you need to build a lot of false memories in your consciousness. For example, from birth to now, for hundreds of years, you will eat the same piece of bread every day after getting up. If you don't do this, you will encounter all kinds of inexplicable disasters. Mao Zedong shrugged. Of course, this is just an analogy. The real belief construction operation is much more difficult than this. Although he said so, under Liu Yongchang's insistence, Mao Zedong still put aside his original research work and began to work hard to overcome the thought stamp technology. The previous research results of the biological laboratory are of great significance. In a sense, that is a prerequisite for realizing thought stamp. If the information cannot be input into the consciousness of intelligent life, then everything is empty talk. Considering this, Liu Yongchang's first step is to retrieve all the records of the emotion input experiment. At the same time, in order to obtain a complete data model, he repeated this experiment on the NUS civilization. All operations are paid and agreed by NUS. This is also the way for NUS civilization to earn credit points and contribution points, but it must be said that this method is indeed a huge profit. Up to now, the Taladan civilization has a lot of debts, and the Eugene civilization is still lying flat and rotten. Only NUS civilization has become a small rich man by relying on biological laboratories. They basically do not need to exchange technology, and most of the time these credit points are used to exchange for some necessary services, such as the breeding and reproduction of the companion lost giant insects, the customization service of the gamma ray intensity of the primary and secondary stars. Slightly different from the last emotional memory input experiment, the observation object of this experiment is not the core of the network and the individual NUS but the entire NUS civilization. With the support of a large amount of resources, countless probes accurately penetrated every individual and network branch of NUS civilization. If it is compared to humans, all the nervous systems in the body are equipped with precise detection devices. These probes can accurately detect the bioelectric signals and quantum signals generated by NUS civilization during the experiment, and at the same time, model and analyze the entire experimental process. Undoubtedly, this requires a lot of computing power support. For this moment of experiment, Zero even suspended many giant projects under construction and other unimportant computing work. 10 minutes later, as the last bioelectric signal slowly dissipated, the second emotion input experiment came to an end. NUS, what do you feel, LV? Yongchang asked while frowning and sorting out the experimental data. Zero responsibly translated LV Yongchang's words into the language of NUS civilization and input it into the NUS civilization's network area. Dear Chief Scientist, it is almost the same as the last experiment. I felt an inexplicable pleasure, as comfortable as taking a sunbath. Please don't misunderstand, I don't have the memory of sunbathing, but this feeling reminds me of sunbathing in front of LV Yongchang. NUS was still a little restrained. It explained its feelings to LV Yongchang in as much detail as possible. LV Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. Okay, I understand. This experiment is over, and the credit points and contribution points should have been settled. You can exchange for a main star gamma ray tide and enjoy a sunbath. Thank you for your generosity. That's what I thought. The communication link was interrupted. A holographic image automatically appeared beside LV Yongchang. Looking at the stellar core reaction interference device with soaring power in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang showed a faint smile on his face. It's a good little guy. It's a pity that the development potential is limited by its own race. Otherwise, there should be a place for NUS civilization in this vast universe. Professor, the modeling work has been completed. Zero's electronic synthesized voice came from the side, breaking LV Yongchang's meditation. Release. The entire NUS civilization bioelectric signal change process during the experiment. LV Yongchang straightened his face and ordered in a deep voice, point the next moment. Point as the lights in the laboratory suddenly dimmed. A huge azure holographic projection appeared in front of everyone. Point. It was a complex model with intricate roots. The tree roots, some thick and some thin, are intertwined with each other, forming the shape of a planet. With the help of a large amount of gamma rays, the NUS civilization has turned the entire planet into its own territory. Chapter 725, Biological Quantum Brain. Under LV Yongchang's gaze, a bright blue light burst out in the core area of the network. Point. That was the bioelectric signal input at the beginning of the experiment. Point. Under the instinct of NUS civilization, the bioelectric signal was automatically converted into a quantum signal. Point. The quantum signal was quickly transmitted to every corner of this huge civilization. Point. One by one, the key nodes were lit up. And in a short moment, the entire model became bright. The originally dim laboratory was also illuminated by this blue light. Point. The bioelectric signal did not stop, but beat at a special frequency. Point. Under the leadership of the core of the network, the entire model was like a broken light, emitting flickering flashes. This flicker obviously has a regularity. Ha! LV. Yongchang exclaimed lightly, and his originally relaxed brows frowned. Point. Under the gaze of the researchers, he slowly moved his steps and changed his observation angle. Point. Mao Zheng's he, Professor. Shh. LV Yongchang suddenly raised his hand and made a gesture to keep quiet. I seem to have discovered something incredible. Looking at LV Yongchang's gradually accelerating pace and the excitement in his eyes, Mao Zheng's he lowered his voice and said, Professor, I want to ask, why don't you just rotate the hologram to observe? Snap. Point. LV Yongchang's hurried steps suddenly stopped. Point. He stood there silently, turned his head, and glanced at Mao Zhengxi with extremely complicated eyes. You suggested very well. Don't suggest it next time. Also, Zero, don't you know how to actively rotate the hologram? Zero. The azure hologram began to rotate slowly, presenting every angle in front of LV Yongchang. Point. After a few seconds, LV Yongchang became impatient. Point. He gently clicked his tongue. Zero. Speed up the experimental process and rotation speed 10 times. The moment the voice fell, the dim biological laboratory was like a bar, full of flashing lights everywhere. The researchers around him narrowed their eyes, trying to ease the stimulation brought by the light. Point. Only LV Yongchang widened his eyes, trying to capture every detail of the model transformation. Point. A few minutes later, the model, which had been running several times, stopped running at LV Yongchang's gesture. Professor, what did you find? When the lights in the laboratory were restored, Lucian, who was waiting on the side, asked impatiently. Point. LV Yongchang slowly turned around and looked at Lucian and Mao Zhengxi in front of him with amazement. Unbelievable. I didn't expect that NUS civilization could bring me such a big surprise. Looking at the confused look on the faces of the researchers, LV Yongchang didn't keep them in suspense and said directly, the NUS civilization's network nodes use a new 3-dimensional architecture. What do you mean, Mao? Zheng's eyes became more and more confused. Are you talking about those roots? Hasn't the structure of this thing been studied a long time ago? Not the root system, to be precise. It is the network pathways and nodes inside the root system. LV Yongchang licked his lips that became a little dry due to excitement. I observed the operation of these nodes and found that it is very similar to our optical quantum computer, but its architecture is very novel, even more advanced than humans. This time, Mao Zhengxi completely understood. He took a breath subconsciously. Professor, do you mean that NUS civilization has evolved into a large quantum computer with its own power? LV Yongchang frowned slightly and shook his head hesitantly. That's not the case. Unlike quantum computers, it cannot be programmed, nor can it realize the various functions of quantum computers, but it can carry the collective quantum consciousness of NUS civilization. Therefore, I prefer to call it biological quantum brain, which is also a unique technology of NUS civilization, just like your brain. Mao Zhengxi suddenly asked. LV Yongchang was stunned for a moment, then nodded uncertainly. Should it? No, that's not right. Mao Zhengxi shook his head and denied his opinion. My intuition tells me that your brain should be more advanced than this. Let's not discuss this topic first. LV. Yongchang looked at Mao Zengzi with a strange look and pulled the topic back. Discussing my brain with a biologist always feels weird. Especially since this biologist always stares at his brain with fiery eyes. In short, this new architecture may inject new vitality into our optical quantum computer. LV. Yongchang said in an affirmative tone. 0. Send the experimental data to Mo Ziyang. Let him try this new architecture. Earth Optical Quantum Computer Experimental Center. Mo Ziyang sat in his seat with a gloomy look, raised his hand, and scratched his messy hair. The holographic projection in front of him showed a warning yellow. Failed. Again. Has the performance of the optical quantum computer really reached its limit? Mo Ziyang lay back on the chair, staring at the blue sky and white clouds in the holographic ceiling with empty eyes, and sighed deeply. Academician. Mo, how about we try another plan? The voice of his companion came from the side. It's hanging. I don't think it's hanging. Mo Ziyang still kept lying on his back and said weakly, the most promising plan has failed. Can those defective products still have miracle? Our optical quantum computer experimental center has not produced any results for a long time. The atmosphere in the laboratory became more depressing. Beep. A crisp sound came from the speaker at the same time. The lights in the laboratory went out instantly, and a slowly rotating, flickering complex holographic model appeared above everyone's head. The sudden change caused a commotion in the originally quiet laboratory. Mo Ziyang, who was lying on his back on the office chair, suddenly widened his eyes. Stop arguing. He straightened up, stood up from his seat and carefully looked at the slowly rotating holographic image. Just one glance. His heart, which had been silent for a long time, started beating violently again. His intuition kept shouting, it's it. It's it. It's the architecture solution he has been pursuing for a long time. Academician. Mo Ziyang, you have a message from Chief Lu Yongchang. Do you want to check it? The electronic synthesized sound in the laboratory once again verified his guess. P.S. I'm so stuck today, I almost didn't catch up with the release time. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.